Hi everyone, welcome to another interesting live stream with yours truly. Yeah, for those who don't know who I am what's the word that they've used to describe me? I am a racist, Islamophobe, bigot, and recently I've been called a cherry picker. So I'm all of those things and more. And I have with me somebody who is, will I say, famous or notorious, you know. In Nigeria, there's something we call father in the Lord. He's my father in the Lord when it comes to being all of those things. And it's none other than David Wood. Welcome to the live stream, David Wood.
Hey, you sound exactly like me. Because all those words that they use to describe you, they say the same thing about me. It's weird.
Interesting. We have the same fans. We have we have the same fans. Different country, but the same fans. Guys, welcome to another interesting live stream. I'm happy to see everyone here. Wow, we're starting with 152. We're starting strong. So happy to see each and every one of you. Also seeing new people in the comments. People that I usually see in David Wood's live stream.
Hey, watch out for that guy.
And this is the person who was asking you questions. No, this person. In your live stream. Do you remember this person? Mm-hmm. Shane, I asking you if you can confirm. If you can confirm if you're going live. My moderator and a very wonderful person. And yeah, we have a lot of people here. So happy that each and every one of you can join us. We'll be talking about a lot of interesting stuff today. And I hope what are they saying? Oh, I hope we'll give you an interesting show that is that will inform everybody about Islam, about jihad, about what is going on in Nigeria. These are the things that I hope to achieve in this live stream: jihad, Islam, and Nigeria, especially the last part. How are you, David? Would even though I've asked before behind, let me ask you now that you are live. How are you? How is America?
Oh, America? Yeah. America seems messed up when you're in America, but if you go to other places, like you go to Europe, then you think, wow, America's pretty good right now.
I can imagine. What your answer just reminds me of Nigerians they want to leave Nigeria, and then after staying abroad for a year, they're like, oh, I miss Nigeria. And we always ask them, what do you miss about the country? What exactly is in this country that you miss? And they're like, yes, there is poverty, yes, there is insecurity, but you know that community is not there. And I'm like, anyway, you have to give some to get some. It's bound to happen. Yeah, and
community. Hey, let me tell you a little story. Community is important. We lived in my wife and I. We lived in the Bronx for 13 years, and we were walking down the street one day, and a woman walks by us, and she says, "Hi, David. Hi, Marie." And we say hi, and then we walk a little farther, and I say, "Who is that woman?" And my wife goes, "Your next door neighbor for the past 13 years." And it's like, so this woman lived right next door to me for 13 years. I never had any clue.
I had no idea who she was.
Yeah.
That's not even possible in Nigeria. In Nigeria, if you move to a new location, everybody is going to want to know everybody. Everybody wants to know who. I mean, things. I don't know if you guys do this in the West, where in Nigeria, just to get to know your neighbor, you will meet them and borrow something from them. Just to get to, It's not like you don't have it, but just because you want to have that interaction with them, you knock on the door and say, "Hey, please, can you help me with this?" And then that way you start a conversation. And then you get to know it.
There are areas that are friendly like that. Like you move into one community and stuff, and your neighbors show up at the door to welcome you and introduce their family and stuff like that. And other places, if someone shows up at your door, you're going to be like, "Hey, what's this person trying to do? This person trying to get in here, steal something? What's going on?"
Especially, I think those places where they have unfriendly neighbors will be places in the cities, like urban areas where they're densely populated. Everybody is trying to hustle. Unlike like towns and villages in Nigeria where there's that communal living. When I lived in Lagos, it wasn't really like that. Everybody's trying to mind their business in Lagos, but when you move to other parts of the country, you see, this strong community amongst people who live in a particular area. Is that the same over there in the West?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And so yeah, the first question I would like to ask you is, I think you must have answered this question 1,000 times, but let's ask it again and let's hear you tell us the story again. How did you start criticizing Islam? Why Islam?
Mainly, I did interact with a Muslim imam before Nabil, but I still didn't know. I was a brand new Christian, and I didn't know a lot. I read one book. I read Answering Islam by Norm Geisler and Abdul Salib, just for conversations I was having with a Muslim. But it was knowing Nabil in college. So my best friend in college was a Muslim named Nabil Qureshi, and we spent 4 years. We spent over 4 years discussing Christianity and Islam. For the first, basically, I don't know, 2.5 years or so, we focused on Christian topics, like the reliability of the New Testament, the death of Jesus, death and resurrection of Jesus, the Trinity, and so on. So we talk about these issues, and then eventually we focused more on arguments that he was giving me for Islam. So he was giving me the scientific miracles argument. Most Muslims, when they use the scientific miracles argument, they go to the Quran. He was going to the Hadith as well. But when he was giving me these arguments, I would want to look them up. So if he said there's some amazing scientific insight from Muhammad in Sahih al-Bukhari somewhere, I'd go buy Sahih al-Bukhari so I could read it. And then when I would read it, I would find out it didn't say what he claimed. It wasn't because he was trying to trick me. It's because he's reading Muslim apologetics books that are presenting this as a scientific miracle without giving me the full hadith. And so I would go back to him. I said, hey, look what it actually says. That's not right. And then I would keep reading, and I would find all these problems and all these weird teachings. And I would go back to him and I say, hey, you believe this? This is the source you were quoting. You believe this? You believe this? And so that's how I got started criticizing Islam.
Okay. That's before you met Nabil and everything that transpired. So you just went off for a second, I hope. And you've muted yourself.
Oh, sorry about that. I have a little cold, so I try to mute myself when I cough, and I just clicked off the cam instead of the mic button there. But anyway, I'm going to be muting myself I'm going to try to mute myself when I have to cough because.
Okay, I was asking. That was before you met Nabil. I also had the story where you said one of the persons you had to talk to about Islam was somebody in the gym, right?
Oh yeah, that was the guy. That was the guy beforehand. That was an imam. So I have this guy we were basically weightlifting partners. So we would go. But again, back then I didn't have the Muslim sources. So whatever this guy was saying, I would argue about it. And again, that's when I read that's when I read one book by Norm Geisler and Abdul Salib. He did give me a Quran. So I read some passages of the Quran back then. But yeah, it was interacting with Nabil where I really started reading books and articles and going through the Muslim sources and so on. And then after Nabil became a Christian, I actually thought, cool, I'm done with Islam now. Because the only reason I was studying Islam was because my best friend was a Muslim. If he'd been something else, I would have been studying that. If he'd have been a Buddhist, I would have been studying Buddhism. So when he became a Christian, I was like, I'm done now. And then didn't end up like that. Muslims started challenging us to debates. They wanted to debate him to show that he was stupid for leaving Islam. Because back then, I don't know how old you are.
28.
Okay. This is before your time. You would have been a little kid. And you were in a different country. But yeah, back then it was rare to hear from an ex-Muslim. And it was still a myth among Muslims. I'm talking like 2000, 2004, 2005, 2006. It was still a myth that was spread that no Muslim ever leaves Islam.
In Nigeria, we didn't even believe that, because living in southern Nigeria, when people leave Islam in the north, they have to run away and come to the south. So we know about that, and we know people left Islam.
Yeah. So it's very common to say, for Muslims back then, to say that no one ever leaves Islam. And so when someone does leave Islam, they say, oh, he was never a Muslim. He was always a Christian or a Jew, and he's just lying about being a Muslim, even though, hey, look, there's this Muslim family and so on. Like, what do you even tell? Here's all the pictures of him at the mosque and so on. What are you talking about? But they had to say it, which is crazy, right? Because I mean, if you go back in the history of Islam, they had to fight what they called the apostasy wars. They had to fight entire wars in the first generation of Muslims, because once Muhammad died, all these people said, "Hey, we can leave Islam now." And then so Abu Bakr had to go out and fight apostasy wars against all the people who were leaving Islam. Somehow they say, "Oh, no one ever leaves Islam." But so anyway, so after Nabil became a Christian, Muslims wanted to debate him to expose him and show that he had stupid reasons for leaving Islam and becoming a Christian. And they wanted to expose me as well. So they kept inviting me to debate them to show that Nabil was stupid for listening to me, because I'm stupid and I don't know anything. So we ended up debating, and somewhere along the lines, I realized, no, someone needs to be dealing with Islam here. So I need to stick with what I'm doing here.
Yeah. When I listen to how you were able to have conversation with Nabil about Islam, it's kind of different over here in Nigeria, because especially for those who live in Lagos, I grew up in Lagos, and people don't usually want to have religious conversations. Like, if you have a friend who is a Muslim, when I went to school Lagos is a very interesting place, right? Like, you can have a street with 4 churches and like 1 mosque. So in fact, the place I lived in Lagos, my family lived there for a very long time. The opposite my house was a mosque, and next to the mosque was a church. So very interesting. You can only find that in Lagos or in the West. You don't find that any other part of the country. So you always see this kind of coexistence that people talk about, of various religious groups being together and not really being in conflict. You have that in Lagos. That's a fact. But the thing also you also have in Lagos is that people don't like bring up religious conversations amongst themselves, amongst friends or anything like that. They kind of don't want to like soil a good relationship or soil a good conversation by bringing religion into the conversation. Even like you were saying something in your channel that, they would love to talk to you about it. But my experience with Muslims in Lagos, that's the last thing they want to talk about. So if somebody wants to have a conversation, I think my question is, if you want to have a conversation with a friend, with a colleague, with a neighbor, somebody you relate to or do business with or have interactions with that happens to be a Muslim, and this is somebody who doesn't want to talk about it, like they would rather you talk about anything else than Islam, how do you think you introduce that conversation with the person?
Usually by asking questions. Lots of people are, and as you're pointing out, this is going to depend on the area. When I talk about when I tell Christians in the West that there are lots of Muslims who would love to have a conversation about Islam with them, that's true for lots of places in the West, because like here in America, your average Muslim, of course, believes that if you're a Christian, if he takes his religion at all seriously, he believes that as a Christian, you're wrong and that he's supposed to guide you to the truth. So there's that. But they also believe that we've all been brainwashed by the media to think that Islam calls for killing unbelievers and so on. And so they think they want to correct that. If they don't happen to believe that their religion is violent, they want to correct our impressions of Islam. And so normally over here, you can just ask someone a question if you want to. You just say, hey, I've heard a little bit about Islam, or, I've read this, or I've read that, or I've seen this on the news, but I'm just wondering, can you give me your perspective on that? You're Muslim. I hear some stuff from other people, but I'd like to hear it from you. So could you give me your perspective on this issue? Most Muslims in the West would love to share their thoughts with you. And so that can kind of get a conversation started. If you're talking to someone who really doesn't want to talk about it, you can kind of raise that as like preliminary issues. Like, hey, are you a Muslim? Do you like talking about Islam, or do you like to keep that to yourself? Right? Because as a Muslim, he's supposed to be talking about Islam, right? You can even quote the Quran. Surah 16, verse 125 says, invite people to the way of Allah. So you can ask the question, right? Instead of just jumping right into the conversation. Some people don't like to talk about religion. You could say some people don't like to talk about religion. Some Muslims do like to talk about it. Some don't. Some Christians do like to talk about their religion. Some people don't. What sort of Muslim are you? Do you like to actually talk about these things? Because I think they're important, but some people don't think they're that important. So what do you think? It's kind of rough for a Muslim to say, no, religion isn't important, and so I don't talk about it because it's not important. It'd be very odd for a Muslim who takes his religion at all seriously to think like that. So if you can kind of bring it out, like, hey, and the implication is that you're supposed to care about this stuff. We're supposed to care about this stuff here. And so you can kind of lay some groundwork there and conclude somewhere along the way, hey, I'm a Christian, you're a Muslim. Seems like one of us has to be right and the other has to be wrong, unless we're both wrong, something else was true, but we can't both be right. So wouldn't it make sense for us to try and discuss these things so that if one of us is wrong, the other is right, then both of us could actually be on the right side. And if you're in a situation where you have like a good friend, like if you have a good friend, like if you become friends, like I became friends with Nabil, then you can kind of get this idea that maybe we're here because God wants us here, right? In other words, maybe we ended up friends together because God is guiding us and he wants whoever's got the truth to guide the other one, in which case we should be taking this very, very seriously.
Yeah, I agree with you with that on that. I remember when I was like, a little background information about me. My parents, both of them are pastors. They're still alive, so both of them are pastors. And they had their church in Lagos, and then we used to we had a particular day of the week where we go from door to door evangelizing, like talking to people about Jesus. And whenever we go to a household that is a Muslim household, they just tell us, we don't want to talk, we don't want to have the conversation, leave, we don't want to do. That's their always. And they get, if you try to insist a little bit, they get very angry. I said, leave, we don't want to talk. So it was really difficult in Lagos, like having conversation with Muslims. But what you said is really true. Because the only time I was able to have conversation with people who are Muslims was when I was in school and I was talking with my classmates. And of course, there's nothing that I could say to those people. Then, when I mean school, I mean secondary school. So these are 16, 14, 15-year-olds. We are just children talking about it. There's nothing I would say that will make this person leave Islam. He's a young person. If he goes home and tell the parents, nobody, you are not leaving. On this Friday, you are going to mosque. There's nothing that is going to change that. So it was, yeah, we could have that conversation, but it was not effective. But I think, yeah, of course, I left Lagos because it was too hectic living there. And where I am now, I don't see Muslims often, and the ones that I see, we are not friends. And I don't see any scenario where we'll be friends because we don't even speak the same language. So one of the platform I think for people like me will be the internet. So what do you think is the way to talk about Islam online on the internet, on YouTube?
Oh, I did want one quick follow up to what you were just saying. When you're talking about, if you're having conversation with someone, let's say young people, and hey, these guys aren't going to leave Islam. These guys aren't going to leave Islam. They're not in a position in life where they're going to leave Islam. That doesn't mean that any information you get across will be wasted if that person is not leaving Islam at that point. You can always put some information into a person's head that will impact him years later, like years in the future. And there's a book by Greg Kokel called Tactics. He refers to it as putting a stone in someone's shoe. Like if you get a little rock in your shoe or something, you're walking around, there's something that's annoying. It's like bothering you, right? You're walking around and it's bothering you. But it's the same thing with an idea. You could put an idea in someone's head. So just for instance, if you're in a conversation with someone, this guy's this isn't going to cause this person to leave Islam or something like that. But if we're asking a question one day and they're like, hey, you believe the Bible's been corrupted. What do you do with these Quran verses that tell Christians to judge by the gospel? What do you think about those? And notice he's not going to go out and convert based on that, but if you get that in his head, that's something that combined with other things can play a role years in the future. And there's a good Bible passage on this. It's in John 4 with the woman at the well, where Jesus talks to the woman at the well, tells her all about herself and so on. She goes back and tells the town, hey, come see this guy. This guy told me everything I ever did. Come see this guy. So the whole town comes out. And Jesus tells his followers, you get to reap the harvest, but it's because other people did the work before you. And what he seems to mean by that is other people came along long before you and prepared these people to believe in God, to believe in the prophets, to believe that the Messiah was coming. So now you guys get the easy part. These guys are all ready. They're prepared for what we're preaching to them right now. So he's even telling his followers, you guys got the easy part. You got the easy part. You're just harvesting now. Other people came and they prepared the soil and so on. They prepared the ground to get these people ready. But it's similar to that in that as you're going through life and having interactions with Muslims and so on, it's very frequently not a situation where that person is about to convert, but you could be doing sort of the groundwork, preparing the ground by getting more information into this person's head that later on in life, when someone else comes along, that person's ready for it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I see. Yeah, that's 100%. Something that's a good, like you said, it's a good tactic. Like you plant the seed in their hearts or in their mind, and then over time, at one point, all of that will culminate to them just, eventually considering their religious views and their religious stance. Okay, but I was asking the question about those who are online, how to engage with Muslims on the internet. If you want to start yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's gonna depend on what your goal is and who you're talking to, who you're interacting with, and so on. Because that situation can be there can be all sorts of situations. But a couple of general ideas. Is there are lots of people in certain areas of the world who don't have the safety to openly criticize Islam. They can't say much. And yet we have to criticize Islam. We have to point out all the lies because your average Muslim, his head has been filled with all these lies that make him convinced that Islam is like 100% certain. It's like obviously true. And if you don't expose those lies, he's just completely confident that Islam is true. So we have to expose those lies. But lots of people aren't in a position where they can do that safely. But we can. We can if we're online. If we're like I'm in the United States of America, I'm pretty darn safe as far as criticizing Islam. So a Christian in Pakistan might not be able to do that openly, but I can do that for them, right? I can do that. So that's one factor. The other factor is, I mean, my goodness, we are the first generation. We're the first generation in history that has the ability to reach Muslims anywhere they're at all around the world. Right. For 14 centuries, if you were a Christian, you wanted to have a discussion about Islam, you had to go to a Muslim area. And if you were at all successful in criticizing Islam or reaching Muslims with the gospel, you're going to get your head chopped off. So it's going to happen. Your head's going to get chopped off. And now all of a sudden, we're the first generation. I mean, I could sit here right now. I could do it right here while we're talking. I could pull out my phone and go on some social media and be talking to Muslims in Saudi Arabia right now while we're live if I wanted to. And 14 centuries of Christians couldn't have dreamed of those opportunities to share the gospel with Muslims. So I look at it and say, hey, here we are. We're the generation that suddenly gets open access to Muslims around the world. Their leaders can't protect them. So in other words, for 14 centuries, in a Muslim area, their leaders can keep them completely insulated. They never hear criticisms of Islam. They'll go their entire lives without hearing any criticisms of Islam. They'll go their entire lives without hearing a serious presentation of the gospel. And their leaders could keep them like this for their entire lives. Now, all of a sudden, we're the generation that has open access to these Muslims, and their leaders can't protect them from criticism of Islam anymore. They can't do it. Anyone with an internet connection, you can't protect them. They try to block sites and so on and block videos in certain countries. But people can find their way around that. So we're the generation that can destroy all these lies that have propped up Islam and share the gospel with Muslims around the world. And I just want to let me give you one story from Nabil that really affected my thinking on this issue. So as I mentioned, we spent the first, 2.5 years focusing mainly on Christian topics before we started talking a lot about Muslim topics, the Quran and Muhammad and so on. And Nabil told me after he became a Christian, he said this after he became a Christian, he said, when we were discussing Christian topics and we're reading books and we're watching debates and we're discussing them and so on, he said, I realized that Christians have good reasons for what they believe. He said, I realized that they have good reasons to believe that Jesus died on the cross. They have good reasons to believe that he rose from the dead. They have good reasons to believe that he's Lord. They have good reasons to believe that the New Testament is reliable. They have good reasons for all of this. He said, but I was also thinking, even if these Christians can show me with 99% certainty that all of this is true, I'm still 100% sure that Islam is true, because the miracle of the perfect preservation of the Quran and the scientific miracles in the Muslim and all these things that he'd been taught were true. But think about that, because even he said it. Even if lots of Muslims don't say it, or if they're not consciously thinking it, it's ingrained in their brain. If you're presenting something other than Islam, and they think that Islam has all of this great proof, how are they going to take you seriously? How are they taking you seriously when they have complete confidence that their religion is true, because their leaders have told them all their lives that there are all these scientific miracles and so on? And so they think they have a 100% airtight case that Islam is true, and you're trying to tell them something else is true. It makes no sense. They're not going to take it seriously. And that's why polemics, actually criticizing the Muslim claims, is important. It lowers, if you have to lower their confidence in Islam for them to take an alternative seriously. So I regard that as a lot of what we have to do online. Dawah has filled their heads with complete lies. They're not going to hear the truth from other Muslims. They have to hear the truth from us. They have to hear the responses to these arguments. They have to hear it from us. And so we look, I look at this and I say, wait, your leaders have spent 14 centuries lying to you and keeping your head filled with nonsense and insulating you so that you don't hear any responses to that. And all of a sudden, we're the first generation that gets open access to all your sources so that we can respond to all the lies. And we have the technology to reach Muslims around the world, wherever they are. All of a sudden, we're the first generation that gets all that. I say we've got a job to do. And I believe we're here. I believe we've been given this task by the Almighty to expose these lies. And so, of course, we have to use the internet to do that. It's just been handed to us.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It reminds me of when I started my YouTube. When I started talking about Islam, I didn't want to talk about it. Even when I was doing YouTube and talking about all the issues that I was talking about, even when I talk about African issues, I just chose to focus on political, social, culture. I didn't want to talk about religious stuff because, of course, someone who grew up in Nigeria is always a sensitive topic once you bring up religion. And then what kind of changed everything for me? I made me discover you need to really talk about religion because it's very important. And I think it's the same for so many people. Like they had this wake-up call after October 7th, and then I saw what happened on October 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is going on here? And I used to think if there's any place where lies that Muslims believe and Muslims hold, if there's any place it would not fly, right? It would be in the West. It won't fly there. These people will know better. And then I was shocked to see that there are even people in the West who don't know anything about Islam. How much more we in Nigeria who there's this thing they say, and I know it may sound racist for some people, but it's the truth somehow. They say if you want to hide something from an African man, you put it in a book.
Wow. That is the most racist thing I've ever heard in my life. I see why everyone calls you, what'd you say, a racist, bigot, and hate monger and all that stuff. I get it.
It's partially true, not completely. The only thing that will make a Nigerian read a book for the most part, not every Nigerian, many Nigerians are bookworm. If you convince them that there's something to get, like, okay, reading this book is for this exam. If you pass this exam, you're going to get this degree. If you get this degree, you're going to get this job. And if you get this job, you're going to get this amount of money. They're like, all right, bring the book. But beyond that, you're like, nah, why am I reading this? Why am I reading book? So, but there are Nigerians who are actually bookworm, who read and who try to study stuff for the most part. No, for the minor part, not the most part. So yeah, and then somebody that's a Nigerian and African, they're seeing Westerners become like outdo us in ignorance. I was like, what is going on here? Why are these people this ignorant? And then I said, you know what? One of the things that made me want to talk about it was, okay, let me. One of the things I decided to, like, when I started talking about Islam, was just focus on the social effect of the ideology of the religion. And I was like, okay, let me show you what is happening in Nigeria so you understand this religion better. Look at what they do here. Look at what they did here. Look at what they are doing here. Understand that this religion is not peaceful, or whatever idea you have in your head about it is really not true. Look at what they do all over the place, And for that, I've been called a cherry picker. They said, people have been accused of cherry picking. They said, you leave this one and you talk about this one. Why did you? I remember one time I spoke about something that they did in India. I don't know if you're aware of this news, where Someone went to the neighbor's house to borrow money, went upstairs, saw the children of the person of the neighbor, and then slit the throat of the So I was talking about that story, and also mentioning the fact that during the burial of one of the culprits, it was like Muslims in their thousands attended the funeral, and we are like trying to justify what he did. And that was even why I was even talking about it, because I mean, based on the attack, I could not come to the conclusion that they did it for Islamic reasons. But the fact that you had Muslims in their thousands attending the funeral is like, okay, what are these people trying to say? Are they in support of this? And I was, that was kind of what the point of the video I was making was. And then one of the Muslim Dawa guys online said, oh, you see, Frank is cherry picking. There are 20,000 deaths in India, and he chose to talk about this one. And I made the response video saying, yes, I'm a cherry picker. That's because you would give me a lot of cherries. So
yeah.
You give me a lot of cherries to pick. If there are no cherries, I won't be picking anyone. Yeah, so I wake up every morning and I just see cherries all around me. So don't blame me. Just blame the cherries. I have to pick them.
And I mean, people are right in that, for anything you point out or draw attention to, there are other things going on. So why are you pointing to this issue? Well, there's a reason, right? There's a reason we point to this issue. If some random guy, whatever he is, Christian, Jew, Muslim, atheist, whatever, if a random guy is a bad guy, he's a bad person, and his wife says something and he beats her up. Well, that's one thing, right? There's no connection to anything else. It's just him being a bad guy, beating his wife. And so what would you point to about that except for he's a bad guy, look what he did? If that guy's doing it because he believes that it's advocated and promoted by his religion, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do according to my religion. If my wife does something I don't like, I'm supposed to beat her into submission. Well, then it's not just him. It's not just him. It's part of a bigger issue. That's part of a religion. And so if some guy goes out and slaughters unbelievers because he's crazy, that's one thing. This guy might just be crazy. If someone's just crazy, you can't really pin that on anything else. But if someone does it because he has complete contempt for these other people, because his religion teaches him that these people are garbage and that it's a good thing to kill them and so on, well, then you have to point it out because that's connected to a bigger thing. And if it's part of an ideology, you have to expose that ideology because that's not going to be the only time that happens. That's going to keep happening if it's connected to the ideology. And so pointing out that things are connected to something like Islam, yeah, that's not cherry picking. That's,
of course it's not. I know it's not. I know it's not. And I like one thing I accuse people that I see, not accuse, but see among people who try to like criticize me and say, oh, you this is what you did is Muslims that have made videos about me online. Like there's this guy Dawa over Donya. I don't know if you know of his YouTube channel. So he has made a couple of videos about me. He's my number one fan. I believe he's watching everything I do. I believe if I sit down, he watches. If I stand up, he's really a close listener. I'm always looking for how to twist something I say. And people always tell me, respond to him. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to respond to this person because I feel if anybody who watches the original video I make and watch whatever response he's making to them, we just see the dishonesty. I don't even need to point it out. You just need to go and watch the video he's critiquing. And then you see the dishonesty. I don't need to make another video to just repeat the same thing I said in the first video. There's no point. So that's why I don't respond to him. But one of the things I notice they do is they always deflect. You mention something about, okay, this is something in Islam that promotes this particular action, and then they deflect. Or let's say you talk about child marriage, and then they bring up, the usual suspects. Mary was probably 0 years old, and Rebecca was -5. Whatever number they want to give, and then they were like, oh, look at that.
Whatever number they want to make up.
Whatever number they want to give to those people, they say that's the age. Or you point out that, okay, look at capital punishment. Look at the fact that under Sharia law, like a story I was pointing out earlier, in Nigeria, a 12-year-old child was caught stealing. 12-year-old, and both arms were cut off, right? It was amputated. And I was like, look at what happened in Nigeria. This is Sharia law for you. When you hear people say, oh, we are calling for Sharia, this is what they are calling for: amputation of 12-year-olds. And then somebody will be like, oh, do you know that in the Bible, under the law of Moses, if a woman do this, and when they are fighting with a man and something happens, they're supposed to cut off her hand? Can you see the Bible is this cruel? and you're talking about Islam, focus on your religion, So that's usually the deflection that they will take. Oh, look at something that is in the Bible. Look at this, look at that. Once you point out something that they're doing. And of course.
It's called whataboutism.
Of course.
And you can always do that. Hey, this guy's over here beating up this woman. But what about this other thing over here? Okay, well, maybe something over there to talk about, and you could talk about that. But this guy's doing this. But what about this? Okay, well, following that reasoning, you can never point out any problem ever, right? Because there's always another problem. There's always another issue. There's always something else to talk about. Why can't we focus on this thing to try and deal with this issue right now? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So another question I want to ask is how to reach out to Muslims. I don't know if you well, let me just ask you, because you live in the West. I don't know how much of danger zones you've been in, but in Nigeria there are a lot of danger zones. So the question is how if someone wants to go about talking to Muslims in areas where preaching. I don't know if you noticed that in Nigeria there are areas where even in the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria, Abuja, which is like Washington, D.C. for the United States. In Abuja, for Nigeria, the Federal Capital Territory, there have been instances of women going out to preach in a particular neighborhood, and their bodies are found, on the streets, dead. So it happens often that when you go to certain areas, Muslim, majority areas to preach, you might not come back alive. So how do you engage with Muslims under such climate of hostility and where you are definitely risking your life to do such a thing?
So we do have we have more dangerous areas we have areas in the US that are more dangerous than others, and in the UK and so on. So I was just past weekend, I was in a Muslim area of London. And fortunately, you still have a strong police presence and so on. So you're not as safe as you would be in an area without the jihadi minded, because you have Muslims who are just minding their own business. You also have the aggressive ones who are trying to set things off. So it's more dangerous, and that someone could always take a swing at you, and sometimes they do stab people and so on. But still significantly safer than some areas of the like the Muslim world and so on. And even here in the US, there's like Dearborn, Michigan, where if you're in the wrong area, someone's might grab a rock and throw it at you.
The place that we are calling Dead to America just recently.
Yeah. Yeah. So places like Iran and so on. But yeah, you also have the same thing here in the US. In certain places, they'll be calling for that kind of thing. So there is the issue of a place where you're going to go in and they might just kill you and leave you in a ditch. So there, if you believe that this is what God is calling you to, I'm not going to tell you not to go preach and so on. But if you're in an area where it might be dangerous to bring up certain issues, I mentioned a book earlier, and you're the one who says that no one's going to read a book. You're the one who said this. Well, I'll point out, it's a short book. It's Greg Koukl, Koukl. It's called Tactics. It's actually short. It's a short book, but you can also find a lot of the same information in lectures by that guy. So Greg, Greg, and then his last name, Koukl, Koukl. And if you look up Greg Koukl Tactics, there's the book Tactics, but he also gives lectures on it. But you can present the same sort of information in ways that are safer than other ways, right? So for instance, if you wanted to say, one of the things I like to point out to Muslims is they all seem to believe that the Bible's been corrupted, when the Quran says the opposite. Their God and their prophet have no clue if the Bible's been corrupted. They only affirm it. So Allah affirms the inspiration and the preservation and the authority of the Torah and the gospel in the Quran. Muhammad does the same thing in the Hadith. So I want to get this information into a Muslim person's head to get him to think about this over time. But how do you do that? So notice I could say, hey, you got the Quran. Did you know the Quran affirms my book? And since the Quran affirms my book but contradicts my book, you've got a problem there. The Quran self-destructs. Okay, I can say it that way. I can say it that way, in which that's going to come across like an attack. So if that was in a dangerous area, that might be a problem. But I can present that exact same information in a less aggressive manner that doesn't come across as an attack, by asking questions. So, hey, are you a Muslim? Yeah, what do you believe about the Bible? Because I've heard Muslims that believe different things about our scriptures and so on. And then whatever he says, say, oh, okay, that's interesting. Because the reason I was wondering that is I was reading some Quran verses here, and I was wondering what you think about these, because it sounds to me like it's affirming our scriptures. But I don't want to just go with my own interpretation, because you're a Muslim. I'm not a Muslim, so you'll know this better than I do, even though he doesn't. But you'll know this better than I do. What do you think this means? There, you're just asking for information. You're not attacking. You're not bringing up a criticism. So you could always have a person who's going to get mad that you're even asking a question or something like that. But notice that's a lot less likely
aggressive
to be considered an attack against him. Just asking a question. But you keep in mind, you can even bring up like very sensitive information like this. So if I wanted to talk about Muhammad and Aisha and say, hey, why did your prophet have sex with a 9-year-old girl? Notice I could do this in totally different ways. I could say, hey, you're going around preaching Muhammad and saying he's a great guy. That guy, he had sex with a 9-year-old girl. He's a pedophile. What's going on with that? That might not be a completely safe thing to say in lots of areas. And there might be areas where it's not safe to bring it up at all. But you can bring that up in a much less aggressive way and get the same information across. So you could say something. Notice if you're sitting down talking to a Muslim, let's say you know a Muslim from school or something like that, or a Muslim from work, and you think, okay, this guy might get upset if I really criticize Muhammad, but I want him to know this information. You could bring it up in a totally different way. You could say, so watch this. Here's what you do. You're sitting down, you're talking to your Muslim friend. Said, hey, you were telling me how you believe Muhammad is the greatest man of all time. I was reading this article by this guy. He's a total jerk. His name's David Wood. Oh man, can't stand that guy. He's messed up. But he was putting Muslim sources on the screen talking about Muhammad and Aisha. And it really looked like that's what the sources are saying. But I know he's not a Muslim, so I don't know if I'm getting an accurate Muslim view on all of this. So I was wondering if I gave you that article or gave you that video or whatever, could you take a look at it and give me your thoughts on it? Because if he's wrong about something, I want to know it. I want to know if he's wrong. And so I'd like a Muslim's perspective on this. So could you give me a Muslim perspective to see if there are any problems with what he's saying? There, you're asking the person for help, and you're even inviting the person to criticize what's being said. And so that person will think, a lot of Muslims are going to think, I have to defend my religion to show this person that these criticisms are wrong. But guess what? The person's getting that same information about Muhammad. And they might, in that situation, they might even get more information than if you just came and said, hey, Muhammad's a pedophile. That might end everything right there. And they might not want to talk anymore. If you're actually saying, hey, read this article or watch this video, and I'd like your response, then they're actually thinking about it and thinking about how they would respond. They might be looking up responses. And so you might actually, given a less aggressive approach, get way more information across to your Muslim friend. Anyway, the idea is there are different ways to get the exact same information across. And generally asking the other person questions, even though you're still kind of leading the discussion by the questions you ask, you're having the person think through it themselves in response to questions, rather than just blasting away with things you want the person to hear. And generally that's going to be a safer approach than like attacking.
There's somebody in the comments. I just want to point this comment out because I've seen this comment over and over again. I get it. She's doing this to show that I'm not 100% accurate in saying that Nigerians don't read. So the name here is a famous Nigerian author. I don't know if you Chino Achebe. He wrote the book Things Fall Apart. I know jokes are supposed to be an exaggeration. Jesus Christ, I was exaggerating. I was exaggerating. It's not 100% true. I mean, here's proof that Nigerians read. Me, if I can brag myself. Okay. So, anyways, one more question that I wanted to ask. The question has distracted me. Now I don't know. I don't know what the question is. Anyways, like I said before, we were talking. Before we went live, I was like, we are going to react to a video to kind of give you the idea of how Nigerians, especially the ones in the West who are not living in western part of Nigeria. When I say the West, I have to remember that there's somewhere called the West, and it's, it's where
the
you
West.
are.
Yeah, the West to us means Europe and the United States. When we
yes,
West.
The West in this situation is Lagos, Ogun State. I know people don't know any of those places. Ogun State, Ondo State, and also part of the East too. Although in the East there's also ignorance, but we are going to react to that video. But before that, I want us to go through a couple of super chats, and this is from Small Falafel Sandwich. I don't know if I pronounced that well. Anyway, Wednesday on Robert's channel, David said the stream was happening yesterday. This is the proof that David Wood is a lying liar face. Worse than we. They brought your beef with the wingers to my channel.
Yeah, that spreads everywhere. Yeah, so after the show, I was like, wait a minute, that's not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. I'm on Friday. So I posted a comment there. So I told the truth. Falafel sandwich in your face.
And this is from Jazz. She says, so happy to see this collab. Thank you both for the incredible work you do and the way you do it. We are proud of that. I don't know if you know why they say. Anyway, you know why they say we are proud of that. But I use that. I use that often in my shots when I do make shots, and then I'm talking about something wrong or terrible that Muslims do, and then I end it with, "And we are proud of that." So, just. And I have a membership level on my membership page that is just called, "And we are proud of that." So, what's up?
That's a good one.
This is Gave It TV. It said, hope you are both well. Hope you are both well taught on Sikhism. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ.
No, I normally don't. Yeah, I don't talk about. I haven't studied Sikhism, so I normally don't talk about it. But yeah.
All right, and please,
they do. People do.
Please write in proper grammar.
Yeah. People do confuse Sikhs with Muslims. Once a long time ago, there was a Sikh man who was attacked for being a Muslim when they're not Muslims. They historically they have fought Muslims in the past and so on. So yeah, they're a different group, but yeah, I don't know enough about them to talk about it.
All right. So this is from Mr. Bukhari with 3 exclamations.
Mr. Bukhari.
Frank, have you read Surah Al-Bukhari 7142? I don't know if I have. I don't are you trying to pull it up?
You want me to read it?
Yes. Please.
That's one of the passages where Muhammad calls Ethiopians raisin heads. Yeah, so Allah's messenger said, you should listen to and obey your ruler, even if he was an Ethiopian black slave whose head looks like a raisin. So if you bring this up to a Muslim, they'll say, he's saying, look, you should even obey him. So you see, Islam promotes equality. And it's like, no, he's telling you that even in the worst case scenario, you should still listen to your leader. And the example that he uses of the worst possible leader, the person you would never ever want to follow, that you would have to follow anyway if he's your Muslim leader, is an Ethiopian.
It's like saying obey your leader even if your leader is a cow. And then you're like, see, he's saying equality, but like, no, he's referring to this person as a cow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is from Can You Not? He says, start a march line. Shirts with controversial Quran verses. A good conversation starter, in my opinion. Well, it depends on the area you are staying.
Mm-hmm.
The areas where that will not be allowed.
Hey, did you see my Quran shirt that I wear at Speaker's Corner?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it. If you wore that in northern Nigeria, they will set you on fire. You are not going to make it out alive. That's
how are they going to do that? They'd have to burn the Quran.
They don't care. You see, Muslims in the north are crazy. They don't care. Like, they don't care.
Well, there's only one way I can find out. I'm gonna have to go and see what happened.
This is from this person. He said, I'm Muslim male from Thailand. Yeah, I'm happy that you're a Muslim and you're listening to us and even sending us super chats. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, support the work here, Muslims.
And this comment said, there is no God but triune God, and Muhammad is the first prophet. Amazing to see both David Wood and Frank in the same video. Talk to AP Nest. Jesus Christ. Okay, I should just let this live stream end. Before you tell me who to talk to next. This one said, Muhammad, real life judge, who is this? Real life judge. Who's this person?
Claude Frollo. No idea.
Okay. I said Muhammad was was also very legalistic, wasn't he? Yeah, he is. Islam is just about rules, and the rules are not even personal; they are communal. Everybody has to follow it. You know, that's why even when they are doing salah, you shouldn't eat in public. You know.
Oh, Claude Frollo was from the book The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Okay. I've also don't have an idea what that is. I was saying Salah, I mean Ramadan. Like everything about Islam, it's not just that it is a rule. It's rule that everybody, whether you're even part of the religion or not, somehow they impose it on you. Like during Ramadan in northern Nigeria, they said people should not eat in public during Ramadan. You shouldn't eat in public because all of us have to be Muslims by force. And this comment said, "Is boring opinion LMP. Why they mix sex with X with goats? Why? Why did they do that, David Wood?"
Yeah, it's kind of weird. No, it's there are all these stories. Most of us, we don't even share them because they're so gross, but you read a story about some village in Morocco or something like that, and there's they'll find out that some donkey or some goat has a disease, a venereal disease, and then they'll have to find out how the goat got it. But then like 15 kids and 15 young guys in the area all have the same venereal disease and so on. So they're all doing it. Yeah, they're all doing it with the same goat. And anyway, just creepy stuff.
All right, this is from Ayao Messi. He said, nice to see you with David Wood. His checkmate jihadi t-shirt was ingenious. Yeah, it was. He said, Frank, God bless you. You're doing well. Thank you. And this is from Shini Bini. She was 9 years old. Yes, she was.
Yep.
And this comment said, I know Disney now is evil and not what it used to be, but I still love the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And every time I see Frollo do what he does in the movie, I am reminded of Muhammad. Not seen it. Maybe I should look at it. I should check it out. This is from Now Devoted. They say, no way, you are with the Diesel himself. It's happening, guys. It's happening. Right in your face. Smackdown said, I love believing in mainstream Muslims. I don't believe in mainstream Muslims. They are unconsciously waiting for the real extremists to lead them. Then the core northern states are to lead them. The core northern states are. Thanks to David Wood for coming on this show. Big up, Nigeria. Thank you. Although I don't understand the last part of your comments, but I also feel the same way about so-called moderate Muslims in Nigeria. Even though I just think in Nigeria there are Western Muslims and then there are Northern Muslims, and Western Muslims don't even understand the religion. When I listen to them talk about it, I'm like, these people don't even know what they be. Here's the funny thing in Nigeria. You may not know this, but Muslims in the West see Muslims in the North as not people who are not real Muslims. And Muslims in the North see Muslims in the West as these people are not real Muslims. So there's this struggle for who is practicing the true, Islam, because Muslims in the West are very welcoming, tolerant. They just want to get on with their lives, live peacefully. Any conflict you hear about that Muslims are engaged in something like has to do with killing, jihad activities, you don't hear that from the West. The West is like you have very, very, very sane people, religious when it comes to Islam in the West, but in the North is a completely different story. So there is
the issue about, like, you think, I know these Muslims, they're moderate Muslims, they're nice Muslims, they're not trying to subjugate anyone and so on. As far as that doesn't mean they're permanently that way if the situation changes, because the idea is if you have a population is basically 1% of the population are Muslims, well, they're going to be promoting a lot of peace and tolerance because that's what's in the best interest of the Ummah. But the Muslim leaders will be telling Muslims, "Hey, Islam promotes peace and tolerance." So you'll have a generation of Muslims that believe that Islam is peaceful and wonderful, and so on. Well, once the population goes up to 10 or 15%, the message that the preacher is preaching is going to change, and it's going to become more aggressive. And if the numbers continue to grow, then that moderate Muslim, keep in mind, I'm not saying the moderate Muslim was just pretending to be moderate. He might be a completely nice person. I know because I've known tons of Muslims along the way who left Islam and became Christian, like Nabil. He was telling me Islam is wonderful and peaceful and so on. When he converted and became a Christian, he didn't say, "Oh yeah, I was just lying. I really wanted to kill you." He didn't say that. No, he really believed that stuff. But the idea is that even if you have people who believe that Islam is genuinely peaceful, once the percentage of Muslims reaches a certain threshold point, the message of Islam is going to change, and Islam is going to become more aggressive, and it's just going to be pointed out to the moderate Muslims, "Hey, look at what Islam actually teaches. It calls for this and this and this and that." That's where they're going to give them more information. And at some point, those moderate Muslims have to make a decision. Either I get on board with the program of Islam, or they're going to treat you like an unbeliever too. They're going to treat you like an apostate or a heretic or something like that. And so when we heard this all the time in the West, when ISIS was going around killing other Muslims, we were told, "Oh, you see, they're killing Muslims. This means they're not really Muslim." No, that's a command. That's Surah 973 of the Quran. Muhammad said he was commanded not only to fight unbelievers, but also to fight hypocrites, the ones who aren't doing it correctly. So once Islam decides to become more aggressive because the Muslim community, the Ummah, is strong enough to fight, the moderate Muslims, they have to take a side, and they're going to be told, "Hey, you either get on board right now, or you're one of the enemies too, and you're siding with them. You're siding with the unbelievers." And so that's why, even if someone is a sincere, moderate, or peaceful Muslim or something like that, that person's either gonna catch it from the jihadis as well, or that person's gonna have to change his position to preserve his own life. So, yeah, don't put your hope. The point is, do not put your hope in moderate Islam. Not gonna work.
Okay. This comment said, "Hi Frank, love the show. Glad to see David Wood join the interview. AP Nest, fingers crossed. Will you consider a visit to Israel? Would love to show our gratitude for your work." We'll see. The next one said, "Okay, if not T-shirt, make it sticker. We can stick around public toilets." Okay. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Okay,
that's not a bad idea. Get some information about Islam, put it on a sticker, and just stick it around public toilets.
Okay. In the southern region of Thailand, Muslim versus Buddhist. Okay, is that like the conflict that goes on there? I think that's what this person is trying to say. This is from Boring Opinion again. It said the real Muslims are ISIS, Hamas, and then ended it with a question mark. So I believe that's a question. Is real Islam ISIS and Hamas?
If you take the Sunni Muslim sources seriously, you get something like that. You get something like that. So Hamas would be the perfect example of what's called defensive jihad, that we are morally obligated, we are religiously and morally obligated to fight against people who basically don't let us have our way. But then ISIS actually, the reason they brought back the caliphate and declared themselves the caliphate is because lots of Muslim scholars say that you have to have a caliph to wage offensive jihad if you're planning on actually going out and subjugating the world. And so, yeah, the things they were doing, you can find justifications for all this stuff in the Muslim sources. But I have to say, if you don't believe a lot of those sources, so if you don't believe Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim and so on, you believe in other hadiths, you can get different results that would be a bit different from ISIS, although I can't really say more peaceful. So because you see the Iranian regime, they don't even believe in the same hadiths and so on. They believe in completely different collections, and yet they still end up very violent. So I just say, yeah, if you're taking the Muslim sources seriously, you're going to end up with some violent recipe.
Yeah, we also have Shia Muslims in Nigeria, and they're very annoying. Although they are the minority in Nigeria, and they look like people who are being maltreated and mistreated, but they are very annoying. They can block streets just to do one stupid protest. Very annoying set of people. Anyway, so let's go to the video. Okay, this first video we're going to be watching is from let me share my screen here. This first clip. Let me say it the way you say it. First clip. So what these people will be trying to figure out is there are two questions that they ask in this conversation. This is the website that did this cruise is a Nigerian YouTube channel that kind of they have so many things they do on the channel. Okay, but one of them is bring people together to have certain hot button conversation. Talk about certain issues that are a bit controversial and bring people on two extremes of the conversation. And in this episode, they did their best in bringing people who know next to nothing about what they are talking about for the most part. So let's look at what they have to say, and we'll have David Wood's reaction. It's not my reaction today; it's your reaction. All right, let's get into it.
Islam is a religion of peace.
Islam is.
Oh no! This is not the first. This is not. Sorry, mistake. My bad. This is not the first clip I want us to start with. I chose the wrong one. Let me. Sorry. Let me get it. This one.
Here are the prompts we'll be discussing. Here are the prompts we'll be discussing on today's episode. Please signify if you agree with the prompts. We all worship the same God, irrespective of our religion.
Do you notice something about people who agree with the prompt? Can you hear me, David?
Yep.
Yeah, I said, do you notice something about people who agreed with the prompt?
That we worship the same God?
Yeah, do you notice something about the people who just raised their hand in agreement to that statement?
Who are these guys?
Both of them are Christians and both of them are pastors.
Oh, wow. Wild stuff. That's cool.
Welcome to Nigeria.
That's good. So Muslims believe in the triune God of the Bible, who the second person entered creation is Jesus of Nazareth. That's good.
The same God, irrespective of our belief. But if it is about other religions outside Muslim, I can't speak for them because they see what they are worshiping. But the God that we are worshiping is a God that we cannot see with our eye. But we know He is alive, He's living.
I believe we worship.
What he just said here is kind of funny, especially when you think about the fact that. Anyway, for me, the problem I have with him is how he just threw every traditional African religion. He just threw them. Phew, I can't speak for them, but I can speak for Islam. I'm like, you can't speak for them, but you can speak for Islam. And you're like, those people, they don't know what they are watching. And also he brought up the fact that both Christians and Muslims believe in an invisible God. And I'm like, yeah, even Igbo traditional religion believe in, and then those other gods also have other gods. It's like a hierarchy of gods. But do they believe in one supreme being? Yes, even Igbo mythology has the belief in a one. So there's one thing people don't know about, like in Igbo language, the word for God is Chineke, and Chineke is God that creates, right? And or Chiokike, God the creator. Those names were names for gods, like traditional gods, that when Christianity came, Igbos just transferred that name from that God to the God of the Bible after accepting Christianity. So the idea of, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, of a supreme being that is invisible. Even Igbo tradition has that, but you will not say that it is that Igbo traditionalists we are worshiping the same God as the God of the Bible, because the means with which you get to that God was not the same. We believe we could get to that God through our ancestors. We believe we could get to that God through other means, through other people. If you have, you can have your personal God, have your communal God, have your kindred God, have like 17. Worship a tree, worship this stone, and stuff like that. So when you look at the method, you say, okay, no, even though we believe in a supreme higher being that created everything, the way these people say we should go to that God is not the same as what we understand from the Bible. And then we come to the conclusion that it is not the same God.
Yeah, that's, I mean, there is an issue that we have to be careful about here. Namely, you don't want to say just because someone has some different belief that means you're talking about a different God, because you can even have Christians. You can even have Christians who, well, I believe God performed this miracle, and oh, you don't believe God performed that miracle or something like that. So you don't want to say, well, we're talking about two different gods, and therefore we two Christians, we believe in different gods because I believe God did this and you believe God did something else. So you don't want to be too strict. But at the same time, yeah, you have to be able to distinguish between someone who's saying, I believe in one flawed, limited, weak God who is, constantly trying to figure out how to do things and doing a bad job, versus, oh, I believe in this omnipotent, perfect being over here. You wouldn't want to say, oh, we both believe in some invisible deity, therefore we believe in the same God. There'd be something very, very weird about that. And so when you're talking about Christians and Muslims, you'd say, okay, do we believe in the same God? You're gonna have to say, okay, what do you mean here? Do you mean we both believe in a creator of the universe, or an all-powerful creator of the universe? If so, you could say, yeah, we have common ground. We both believe in an omnipotent creator of the universe. But the similarities start breaking down very quickly after that. But Muhammad was influenced by Jews and Christians, so he does have some similarities in terms of God's knowledge and power and so on. But the similarities start breaking down very quickly, because you find out Allah just isn't perfect in his attributes. So for instance, we say that God is love, and God is that way eternally. The God of the Quran is not love. In fact, I mean, the Quran is filled with verses saying God doesn't love that group, God doesn't love these guys, God doesn't love you if you're like this, God doesn't love you if you're like that. You have to do all kinds of things for Allah to love you. In fact, I mean, that's kind of a moral difference between the God of the Bible and the God of the Quran. When Jesus says, you have heard that it was said, love your friend and hate your enemy. Yeah. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be like your Father in heaven. So he's saying, hey, you have to love your enemy because God loves your enemy. So if you want to be part of this family of God, you have to imitate God, and God loves your enemy. So you need to love your enemy too. So keep in mind, it's God already loves your enemy. God already loves your enemy. And we're also told in Romans that even while we were still sinners, Christ died for the ungodly. So while we were enemies to God, God loved us. So we love God because he first loved us. So God starts the love, and then we react to the love. In Islam, and you can read this. This is Surah 3, verse 31 and 32. In Islam, you have to first love Muhammad and obey Muhammad, then Allah will love you. If you don't, it says if they don't love and obey Muhammad, then Allah has no love for the unbelievers. So in Christianity, the God of Christianity, he loves you first. You react to his love. In Islam, you love him first, and he may react to your love. You may say, wow, this guy really loves me. So you have differences like that, even in the passage from Matthew 5 that I just cited, so that you may be like your Father in heaven. Old Testament and New Testament, God is our heavenly Father. Allah in the Quran is a father to no one. To no one, not in any sense, not in a metaphorical sense, in no kind of sense. And we're told that the universe is about to fall apart when someone says that we're children of God. You have in the Quran the idea that the highest relationship we can have with Allah is a slave to master relationship. That's from the Quran. There is no one who approaches him as anything other than a slave. So this affects all of ethics, right? If I in Christianity, God loves me first. So it's like that's why he's like a heavenly father, right? A father loves the child before the child grows up and earns that love. It's just, this is my son. I love my child. And then in Islam, you would of course treat a slave differently. You don't just if you go and buy a slave, you don't automatically love that slave. You might, if the slave is a really, really good slave, you might come to love that slave and say, wow, this is a really great, I love my slave. He's the best slave. But you don't automatically love him. And so you end up with two different systems of ethics. In Christianity, God loves us. And so what we're doing out of gratitude to God for loving us. In Islam, you're constantly trying to show that you are you're one of the best slaves and trying to get on Allah's good side. And the best thing that you can do is go slaughter a bunch of people that Allah hates. That's how you show that you're like the best, that you're the best of his slaves and so on. So even apart from like the doctrine of the Trinity and so on, which would be a pretty huge difference between Christianity and Islam, you've got basic like moral differences and so on. That lead to completely different ways of life. And so it's just very, very strange to hear that this is the same God. And if you're ever talking to Muslims saying, hey, we all believe in the same God. Okay, so you believe in the triune God of Scripture. You believe that God entered creation.
Funny thing here is that the Muslims were like, nah, we don't believe in the same God. That's the funny part. Is the Christians are like, yeah, we believe in the same God.
The same God, because of the claims the Islam have about their worship to God. God is the creator. If they claim they worship the creator, then that means they worship the same God with the God of the Christians. The Islam believe that there is a God that created the world according to their claims. And that is the God they worship. And we also believe that our God is the creator of the world, the one who made man and woman. And that is the same God we worship. So that's it.
Kind of disagrees. Now,
what do you have to say about what he just said? I have so many things to say about what he just said, but let me let you go first.
Yeah, I would just say, when the issue comes up, I would just say, again, I'll say it depends on what you mean. If you mean we both believe in a creator or something like that, I can say, okay, we both believe in a creator. If you're saying that means we believe in the same creator, we're going to have to look at this because I mean, think about this cup. If I believe this cup was made by my Aunt Maple, and you believe it was made by a company in Thailand, then we both believe the cup was made. We both believe the maker of the cup. Okay, we believe completely different things about who the maker is. Completely, utterly, totally different things about who made this cup. So you can't just say, since we both believe in a maker of the cup, therefore we believe in the same maker of the cup.
That was exactly the same thing I wanted to say. I was like, even he who is talking, like from his accent, I know he's a Yoruba person. So I know what like Yoruba traditional. So in Nigeria, we have traditional religion. So in Yoruba traditional religion, I know what Yorubas believe about the creator. And I'm like, you have the creator in your pagan religion. So what are you talking about? Do you believe that that's the same God that the Muslims worship or the Christians worship is the same God that your forefathers worshipped? Is that what you're trying to say? And you know the story about your creation story and how it went down. It's not the same with what you find in the Bible. You know, you are talking about completely two different persons, even though, yes, they are both called creator. So just calling somebody creator does not mean we both believe that we now believe in the same person because they bear the same title. So, yeah.
Now speak.
I disagree because how can you say we are worshiping the same God? Your own God, you say, Jesus. I worship Jesus Christ. I worship Jesus. This same Jesus is our own prophet. Our own God cannot be seen, but your own Jesus, he was tortured, he was crucified. Our own God
Pause it there.
seen. And our own
her God can't be seen. What sect of Islam is she from?
I don't know.
You've read the Hadith, haven't you? That on the judgment day, Allah is going to appear to people in a variety of forms, and they're not going to know which one is the real Allah until he raises up his dress and shows them his shin, and they recognize the shin of Allah. They recognize Allah's leg. So how are you seeing Allah and his leg if your God cannot be seen? Sister, you need to read your Muslim sources and stop getting your dawah from awful dawah sites.
I believe that everything she knows about Islam. I mean, not all of them, especially in Lagos, can like read the Arabic or even read the Quran. They just learn to recite. Especially most Muslims in Lagos, all they know is the verses of the Quran that they know that they have been taught to recite. So
yeah, it is an issue that a lot of dawah is set up as a response to Christianity. It's set up as a response to Christianity. And a lot of times in dawah, they don't even care if they're, I don't mean her, I mean the people who teach her. They don't even care if they're contradicting Muslim sources if it helps them to attack Christianity. So for again, simple issue, saying the Bible's been corrupted. Well, that completely contradicts your own Muslim sources. They don't care as long as it helps them attack Christianity. So there's issues like that. I was just at Speaker's Corner, and one of the issues that a Christian there was bringing up with a Muslim was the Muslim had said, they're referring to a discussion they'd had on a previous week, but the Muslim was saying that God can't enter into his creation. Allah can't enter into his creation. There are all sorts of hadiths that make no sense of that, like saying that Allah descends in part of the night so he can hear people's prayers. So notice Allah, he can't hear people where he's at. He has to actually come down and get close, get close enough to hear. But there you have him entering into our universe and stuff so he can get close and hear prayers and so on.
Let me understand. He can't enter, he can't hear from where he is. He has to enter creation, but he's also all powerful.
Yeah. Okay. Just not omnipresent or all knowing. And so that would be some other reasons.
He's not all-knowing, but he also knows best.
Yeah, that would be some further reasons that Allah is not the same as the God of the Bible. So there are issues like that. But the one he was bringing up at Speaker's Corner is the passage about Moses at the burning bush. So that's Surah 27 verses 7 to 9 of the Quran. Moses sees, hey, something going on over there at that bush, and he goes over there. And a voice says, blessed is he who is in the fire and those around the fire. So it's blessing the one who is in the fire. And then it says a voice comes out of the fire. Oh, Allah, oh, Moses, I am Allah. Right. So the voice in the fire that says, bless the one who is in the fire says, I am Allah. So anyway, so this had been brought up to this Muslim. Hey, if Allah can't enter into his creation, how did he enter into a fire? And the Muslim had responded, no, that's an angel. So the guys, the Christians there started chanting, what's the angel's name? What's the angel's name? What's the angel's name? Because the voice says, I'm Allah. So wait a minute, if it's an angel, is an angel named Allah?
The angel just called himself Allah.
Yeah, so yeah, the angel who calls himself Allah, what's going on there? So anyway, the idea is that's an issue where in order to reject the incarnation, they make up a rule. Allah can't enter into his creation. Why are you saying that Allah can't enter into his creation? That sounds like he's not all powerful. What do you mean he can't? Allah can't. They're saying he can't do it. Why are they saying that? Just so they can say that the doctrine of the incarnation is absurd. But guess what? They're contradicting their own sources that say Allah enters into a fire and speaks out of a fire, that say Allah descends to our world so that he can hear prayers. And so on. They're contradicting their own sources just so that in their own minds, their attacks against Christianity are good. And it's the same with this woman here. We can't see Allah. What are you talking about? What are you talking? You are supposed to know exactly what his leg looks like. And if you don't, you're not going to know who to worship. You're not going to know. If you don't know what his leg looks like, you're not going to make it on the judgment. So what's going on here? And they just don't, their leaders just don't care. They'll just fill their heads with all this stuff that completely contradicts their own sources.
But then we have to recognize that in Islam, like logic is kind of, for some is haram. They don't like the use of logic is not allowed.
God is not a prophet. And we don't call our prophets God. We are just like slave
Uh-huh.
to God,
I said it.
not to
I said
human.
it.
So
said it.
how can I call a human my God? Jesus.
Yeah, she just confirmed what she said. She said in Islam we are all slaves. We are all slaves of Allah. We're not children. We don't call prophet God. And so she believes that we don't believe in the same God.
Himself said that he is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. And I believe as Christians, for us to be certified Christians, we have to first give our life to Jesus, and we have to believe that Jesus Christ is our personal Lord and Savior, and he is the Son of God, which is constructing against their belief that Jesus Christ is a prophet. So how would Jesus Christ come and confuse us and say that nobody can see the Father except through him, and then still it's not adding up?
She made multiple very important points there. One, I mean, she went to Jesus being the way, the truth, and the life. Those are all, by the way, those are all versions of 3 of the 99 names of Allah, right? Like the truth, Al-Haq. That's one of Allah's 99 names. A person can say, I speak the truth, but a person cannot claim to be the truth. In fact, there's a Muslim historically who came out and said, I am the truth, and they killed him for it. They killed him for saying that. Why? Because you're claiming to be Allah. So Jesus is making these claims about himself. But then she made even more important, she said, would Jesus be coming to confuse people? This is an extremely important point to bring up to your Muslim friends, because they would read that the way, the truth, and life, and what he really means is this other thing. It's like, wait a minute, if he really meant that, why did he say it like this in this confusing way? That's the issue. If you read the claims of Jesus, he says he came to not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. And Muslims will try to explain that away. He keeps talking about going up to Jerusalem, where he's going to be crucified and killed and rise from the dead. Then they try to explain that away. He claims to be the final judge of all people. They have to explain that away. He claims that he's the one who decides who goes to heaven and who goes to hell. He's the one who raises the dead at the resurrection. These are all things that, according to the Quran, Allah is the one who's supposed to do. Jesus says these things about himself. And so if you want to explain away all of these things, then what are you going to do? It's if Jesus really means something completely different from what he's saying, then he's just a horrible communicator. Is that guy how you guys respect Jesus? You tell us that he's the worst communicator of all time? Because once Jesus' work was done, there were basically 2 categories of people. There were those who were bowing down and worshiping him as Lord, and there were those who rejected him. Guess what? According to Islam, the people who are bowing down to him and worshiping him as Lord, they're all going to hell for worshiping a man. The people who rejected him, they're going to hell for rejecting a prophet. So the result of all of Jesus' work is that everyone's going to hell. Everyone's going to hell. This is a guy you claim to respect. So this is what we actually find in Islam. They claim, we respect this guy. We really respect him. We respect Jesus more than you. You dig a little deeper, and all you find is blasphemy and insults against Jesus. And they have no respect. They have no respect for Jesus. They only respect one guy, and that's Muhammad. And their entire religion is built around that one guy.
So true.
I disagree with that statement that we are worshiping the same God. Our own religion, we are worshiping one God. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah.
No, he tossed Muhammad in there. I love it. We only worship one God, Allah, and Muhammad. They always toss Muhammad. Muhammad's always tossed in there.
There is no God except Allah, and Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Prophet Muhammad is the messenger, like Jesus. Jesus Christ is a prophet that we Muslims believe. We believe in Jesus Christ, Prophet Isa, as our prophet. But you people are calling prophet God. There's another statement that we do here. God of Father, God of Son, and Holy Spirit.
Of course, I knew they were going to point this one out. When I was watching this, I was like, yeah, they're always going to point out the Trinity. That is...
Remember. So how many God? So I personally disagree with the statement that we are worshiping the same God.
God expressed himself
So these people now, the funny thing is that what ends up being the rest of the conversation is explanation of the Trinity. Like that is what it ends up being. Like Christians trying to explain, oh, this is what we mean by the Trinity. This is what we mean by the Trinity. And then they're just like, who is God? Is God the Father God? Is God the Son God? You know, what do you mean by
Yeah, and that's what Dawa guys usually try to do. They try to turn the discussion just to the Trinity, and then they're confused by it when it's a good idea to keep bringing up some of the issues, like right there, what the woman said, about, hey, did Jesus just come to confuse us? Is that what's going on? Even according to Islam. So when we talk about Jesus being the way, the truth, and life, that's from the Bible. Even according to the Quran, you'd have to ask, was Jesus sent just to confuse us all? Because think about this, Jesus in the Quran and in the Quran and the Hadith is still completely different from everyone else. So according to the Quran, Jesus is the word of Allah. So Jesus is the word of Allah in the Quran. He's a spirit from Allah in the Quran. And a Muslim who hasn't thought through this, and they almost never have, doesn't see the problem. When Allah creates, he just says be, and the thing comes into existence. If Allah wants to create this cup, he just says be, and this cup pops into existence. The word of Allah, the speech of Allah, there's a reason Muslims say that the Quran is eternal. They say it because if it's Allah's speech, then it's proceeding out from Allah. And that means it has to be an eternal relationship, because Allah can't just change at one point. So if Allah has speech, then he's speaking it from all eternity. Well, guess what? If Jesus is the word of Allah, then Jesus is being spoken out by Allah from all eternity. That's different from everything that Allah has ever created. This is originating from within Allah. It's not something that Allah says be, and then it pops into existence outside of him. So Allah, not according to us, according to the Quran, is the word of Allah, which would make him the eternal word of Allah. He's said to be a spirit from Allah. A spirit is something that Allah breathes out. So Allah breathes out the spirit. He speaks out the word. So Jesus is something that Allah breathes out and speaks out. This is different from other things that Allah creates. So you've got that Jesus is the speech of Allah. He is a spirit from Allah. So he's already different. Muhammad isn't called the word of Allah. He's born of a virgin, completely different from Muhammad or other prophets. He lives a sinless life. Muhammad doesn't. Muhammad is told repeatedly to repent of his sins, but Jesus is the faultless son. In the Hadith, Muhammad says that Satan touches every child who's born into the world except Jesus. He couldn't touch Jesus. So he could touch Muhammad. Satan could put his hands, got grubby hands all over Muhammad. He couldn't touch Jesus. So why is Jesus the only one that Satan can't even touch? And then Jesus lives the most miraculous life in history, according to the Muslim sources. Jesus even creates the same way Allah creates. They have to put, by Allah's leave there. But why is Allah having Jesus create in the same way that Allah creates? How does Allah create man? He fashions him out of clay, breathes into it, and then it becomes a living man. What does Jesus do in the Quran? He makes clay birds and then breathes into them, and then the bird becomes a living bird. He creates in the same way that Allah creates. And so Jesus is completely different in all these ways. And so even according to the Quran, you have to say, well, if Jesus is just another prophet in the line of prophets, was Allah trying to confuse us by making him do things like create the same way that God creates? Was Allah just trying to confuse us by having Jesus be his eternal word and his eternal spirit? And so what's going on? Why is Allah doing this unless it's just to confuse us? And so anyway, these are some of the things that need to be pointed out.
Yeah, but moving on in the conversation, they fail to point that out, and they just focus on the Trinity. Let's not continue on that. Let's watch the other
Islam is a
clip that talks about Islam being the religion of peace.
Islam is a religion of peace.
Islam is a religion of peace. I must show peace to my neighbors, even if it is Christian by my side. Islam teaches us that anywhere we are, we should show peace to everybody.
Wait, they're seriously saying that in Nigeria?
Yes.
Wait, hang on. Frank. Correct me if I'm wrong. But aren't more Christians being killed for their faith in Nigeria than in the entire rest of the world combined?
When I watched this clip before choosing this video, when he said this, my blood was boiling. I was like, what? Somebody will look into the camera, look at people and make this statement. How? How do you say that? And I like, yes, you must. But to be fair to him, he's a Muslim in Lagos. That's all I would say. To be fair to him, he's a Muslim in Lagos. And he's talking about Islam from that perspective, as a Muslim in Lagos.
Well, why would he be telling the camera that Islam's a religion of peace and not go tell all the Muslims who are slaughtering Christians in the name of Allah? Why isn't he telling them?
He will go on to say that those Muslims who slaughter in the name of Allah are not real Muslims. He will go on to say that. Yeah, he will say all of them who engage in those violent acts, that they are not real Muslims. That, in fact, the Christian lady sitting next to her will ask, is there any place in your religion where you are commanded to kill? And he will say no. And this is somebody who, I don't know if he was here or in the past clip that we didn't get to finish. He quoted the Quran multiple times in this conversation, quoted the Quran multiple times. So he knows the Quran. He knows the Quran well.
That's good.
And he was there and he was lying.
Okay. We'll see what he brings up. I've got some passages in my mind.
Islam is not violence. Islam is not a terrorist. Islam is.
What about I think is it Surah 8:12 that said Allah will cast terror in their heart, there you go and strike them.
Yeah. And Muhammad in the hadith saying, I've been made victorious with terror.
With terror.
Yeah, terror. Terror is how he won.
Yeah, terrorism is baked into, like, how somebody. Anyways.
Yeah. So this guy, according to this guy, Muhammad's not a Muslim.
He's not a Muslim. Muhammad is not a Muslim. The 4 rightly guided caliphs are not Muslims. None of them are Muslims at all. Yeah.
Peace. In your place of work, where you are selling, the people by your side, let those people there, let them feel you that, if anytime they transfer you away from that place, or anytime you leave the place, or anytime you die, they should miss you. I miss this man.
Islam is a religion of peace.
Anyway, those Muslims exist in Western Nigeria. That's all I would say. They exist. I can understand where he's coming from. Like, if he's trying to speak to people in the West, they will Muslims in the West, based on their experience in the West, will agree with him. I don't know if you remember, I said earlier that in the West, like the street where I grew up, where I was raised, there's a church in one side, and the next compound, just separated by one fence, you have a mosque and a church just staying, side by side. There are places like Muslims and Christians getting along in the western part of the country is common. We even have Muslims who end up marrying Christian women, and the woman does not get to convert. Like the president of the country, the president of Nigeria right now, his wife is a pastor, not just a Christian, but a pastor, and all his children are Christians, all of them. And this is something that is rare, but you find it a lot in the West. So I know where I had classmates who were choir directors, who were like active in church, and their father is a Muslim. Like when I was growing up in the West, I see that. So from that perspective, coming from that place, yes, it will make sense to say Muslims are peaceful, right? So yeah, in a way, if all you ever consider is the way Lagos Muslims, if that's the representation of Islam that you know of, then everything he's saying will make sense.
Yeah, but that's the this is related to the cherry picking issue, right? Like, if you're going to point to some people and say, oh, this is real Islam, well, why don't you point to Boko Haram and say this is real Islam? You have to know what the sources say, right? Because you have Muslims who are some of the nicest people in the world. And you have some Muslims who will saw your head off. So which are the true representatives of Islam? We got to go through the sources and say who's actually lining up with the teachings of Islam. And so without that grounding, you'd just be picking and saying, oh, I like these guys, I'll say they're the true Muslims. I don't like those guys, I'll say they're not really Muslims.
Yeah. Let's see what more he has to say.
Because I believe that way.
Anytime you leave the place or anytime you die, they should miss you. I miss this man.
Islam is a religion of peace because I believe that we serve the same God. So if I believe that we serve the same God and my God is a God of peace, then automatically your God also should be a God of.
Oh my
God
goodness!
you claim yourself to be a God of peace.
Wow, he just destroyed his own case. He just destroyed his own case, right? Let me go ahead and translate that based on what I was saying earlier. All right. If I believe that we serve the same God and my God says, love your enemies, then I believe that your God also commands you to love your enemies. Well, that's not what Allah teaches. Okay, therefore we don't serve the same God. That should have been the reasoning there. Not, oh, you must believe the same thing about God that I believe, because I believe we serve the same God. And so if I believe that God is our Father in heaven, then therefore you believe that God is your Father in heaven. No, they already told you. They believe they're nothing but slaves before Allah. So yeah, this is weird.
I mean, your God calls you his children, and he says he's your heavenly father. Theirs doesn't. And you're like, yeah, we still believe in the same God. I mean, I don't even know. There's some people that I'm like, your case is really just
yeah. So think about what he's just saying. He's just saying, I believe. He's just telling us his own feelings. I believe we serve the same God, and my God calls for peace. Therefore, your God does too. And so, Islam is a religion of peace.
Peace, based on my God. Based on the understanding I have about my God, I'll go ahead and say something about your God because I believe that we are all talking about the same God.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could follow this through. I mean, he could do the exact same thing. If he's just going to say, hey, I believe we serve the same God. Here's what I believe about God. Therefore, that's what you have to believe about God as well. I mean, okay, I believe we serve the same God. And I believe my God entered creation as Jesus of Nazareth. Therefore, you believe that God entered creation as Jesus of Nazareth. They can say no. And what are you going to say when they say no? You're going to say, no, you're wrong, because I believe that we serve the same God. That's what I believe. Therefore, it's true. This is weird. This is weird stuff. I don't know who this guy is. I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy, but you're just wrong. You're just wrong, buddy. You're just wrong.
Because I believe it's the same God. Islam, according to their revelation, I believe the revelation is for peace.
Wow. It's good you believe all these things, but what you believe is not going to save people from being slaughtered in the name of Allah.
How wrong can somebody be? How wrong can you be? And confidently so. This is something that is typical of people in the West, because that's where you have.
I just wanted to quote one verse for him. And Surah 47, verse 35. Be not weary and faint-hearted, crying for peace when you should be uppermost. Be not weary and faint-hearted, crying for peace when you should be uppermost. What's Allah saying? He said, hey, peace, let me put it on the street. Peace is not the goal. Being in control, dominating the unbelievers is the goal.
Give me the verse so I can put it on the screen.
47:35. Surah 47, verse 35.
I'm using Quran.com. According to Sahih International, do not be weakened and call for peace while you are superior, and Allah is with you and will never deprive you of the reward of your deeds. And this translation says, do not lose heart, and do not appeal for peace. You will be the uppermost, and Allah is with you, and He will never deprive you of your deeds. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, peace is not the goal. Being uppermost is the goal. That's what you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
And not for war. But we are not talking about the people in Islam.
See the Imam just like, yeah, that's true. That's nodding his head in agreement.
Some of the people in Islam can be for war because of ignorance and not being
or because they actually read their sources.
Encapsulate what the revelation is all about in their spirit.
Islam is a religion of peace. I do tell people that there is difference between religion and your personal behavior. That guy is Elijah. That's how Elijah people used to do. That's how Afar used to do. Islam teaches us tolerance, and when you can tolerate your neighbors, you can tolerate your friends and every other person, that means you are living a peaceful life. Example.
The way she said it, that means you're living a peaceful life. Oh, the way she said it is
You can look at the month of Ramadan.
the month of Ramadan.
Ramadan. Every year, Ramadan is the most violent month of the year. We call it the Ramadan Bombathon. We call it the Ramadan Bombathon because of all the slaughtering of
All the
unbelievers.
violence that happened during the month of Ramadan. And she's like, yeah, just look at Ramadan, so peaceful.
Muhammad himself fought multiple battles during Ramadan. So what is she even talking about? And it's this month, of course, where they gorge themselves with food multiple times per day and call it fasting. We're fasting.
Even Christians, they know that it seems we are in Ramadan period. Everywhere is going to be peaceful.
Where?
No, nothing.
What planet? What planet? On Mars?
This is what happens. This is what happens when you don't read the news. This is just what happens when you don't read.
It's hey, Ramadan is so peaceful every year in Antarctica and on Mars. It's so peaceful on Mars.
This is what happened, and I'm very sure this lady does not read the news. She does not read it. All her understanding of the word is based on what she's seeing in Lagos, because I know these people are living in Lagos. From the way they speak, I know these are Lagosians, and all she understands about the word is just Lagos, Lagos, Lagos. And based on that, she's saying all the things she's saying.
By the way, that's very similar to when you try to. Fortunately, more people are catching on nowadays, but historically, I know from experience, when you try to explain what Islam teaches, in the West, it's no, that can't be true because my Muslim friend isn't like that. I've got a Muslim friend over at school, and he's not like that. So that can't be what Islam teaches. And that's just sloppy thinking. Islam is not defined by your Muslim friend. Islam is not defined by the area that you live in. Islam is defined by what Allah and Muhammad say in the Muslim sources. So people can be in line with that, or they can be going against that. But under no circumstances is Islam defined by your Muslim friend, or by this woman, or by this guy, or by the Christian who keeps saying, I believe this, I believe that, I believe this. Your beliefs and your feelings do not define what Islam is. So, yeah.
I think Islam is a religion of peace. Is there any way that written in your Quran that you should kill or you should cause people? So
no, nothing. Yeah, until we read it.
I want us to hear it again. I want us to hear it again.
I think Islam is a religion of peace. Is there any way that written in your Quran that you should kill or you should cause people? So I don't think any.
Really? Never read Surah 9, verse 111? Strange. You want to toss that on the screen?
It says Surah 9.
Surah 9, verse 111. They specifically said kill there. All kinds of verses about fighting.
And Surah 9, fight the Jews and Christians wherever you see them. Sorry. Yes. Bringing it out is kind of difficult right now.
You want me to just read it?
You can go ahead and read.
I got to pull it up real quick. Let's see. 9:111. There you go. Surely.
Okay. Indeed, Allah has purchased from the believers their lives and their properties. In exchange for that, they will have paradise. They fight in the cause of Allah, so they kill and are killed.
They do what?
Is a true
they do what?
They kill and are killed.
Who does? Allah has purchased from the believers. That's the Muslims. Their lives and their properties. Yeah. So guys, keep in mind, this is called the ayah of the barter, right? It's an exchange. It's an exchange. Allah has bought you. He's bought your life in exchange for what? What's he paying you? He's paying you paradise. He's giving you paradise. And so he has bought your life. What are you supposed to do? You're going to fight in the cause of Allah. You're going to fight in the cause of Allah. So you're going to kill and get killed. You're going to kill and get killed. Did not they just all agree on that panel that Islam nowhere says that you're supposed to kill? This is a definition. The believers, since Allah has bought your life, you're going to kill until you get killed. Oh, no, but but the Quran never says kill.
Never says anything about kill. And any person who ever engages in killing in the name of Allah is not a true Muslim, because this verse obviously does not exist. Or maybe we are not interpreting it correctly.
Yeah. We need someone else to come along and interpret it for us, because 14 centuries of Muslims have all understood this the way.
Religion has that. I think every religion is just trying to connect us back to God. And I have made friends.
Even this statement she made is just funny. Even sorry, I'm bringing Igbo traditional religion or Nigerian traditional religion. Nigerian traditional religion has killing inside. Like there's human sacrifice. There's killing of twins. Like in my area, human sacrifice. Like my tribe, like the tribal traditional religion before Christianity came, a lot of human sacrifice, a lot. And we are all trying to connect to God. We believe that was a way to pacify the gods, to get favor from the gods. And we were like, yeah, if you kill this person, if you have this set of people and you kill them, then you are the idea that no religion, as in Nigerian, your understanding of traditional religion, the ones your great grandfather practiced, and you hear stories about it from your parents. And you're like, yeah, based on my understanding of every religion, killing is not something they talk about. This is never something they talk about. I mean,
yeah. So the issue here is, you can say Islam and Christianity and so on, they're trying to get us properly connected to God. Like in the proper connection in Islam is submission. It's so significant that they named their entire religion after it. The word Islam means submission. The word Muslim means one who submits. And so Muslims will use this. And they'll say, hey, Islam's just a religion of submission to God. You as a Christian, you believe we're supposed to submit to God, don't you? So yeah, okay, so that's Islam. So you're a Muslim. Okay, Islam doesn't just tell you that you must submit to God. It tells you how you submit to God. How do you submit to God? You submit to God by mindlessly obeying the commands of Allah and Muhammad. No question, not thinking through it, not saying, oh, I feel that this is the case, or I'm going to look over here to these nice guys and say, I'm going to conclude this. No, you mindlessly, unquestioningly obey exactly what Allah and Muhammad say. And just so people don't think I'm making this up or like mocking with this is exactly what the Muslim sources say. It's exactly. So let me read 2 verses of the Quran here. Surah 33, verse 36. Surah 33, verse 36. It is not fitting for a believer, man or woman, when a matter has been decided by Allah and his messenger, weird how it's always Allah and his messenger who make these decisions, to have any option about their decision. If anyone disobeys Allah and his messenger, he is indeed on a clearly wrong path. So it is not fitting for a believer, if you're a real believer, man or woman, when a matter has been decided by Allah and his messenger, to have any option about their decision. Once Allah and Muhammad say it, you have zero option. There's no options. It's not, well, I think this, I feel this. Well, I've been taught this, or my grandma told me this. It's none of that. It's this is what Allah says you and Muhammad say. You do exactly what they say. Yeah. And it gets more extreme. Surah 4, verse 65. Surah 4, verse 65. But know by your Lord, they can have no faith. Talking about Muslims here. They can have no faith until they make you, O Muhammad. So Allah speaking to Muhammad. But no, by your Lord, they can have no faith until they make you, O Muhammad, judge in all disputes between them and find in themselves no resistance against your decisions and accept them with full submission. What is this? Think about this. Islam is the religion of submission. Who are we submitting to? We're submitting to Allah. Okay. How do you submit to Allah? By submitting to Muhammad. It says it right in the Quran. You submit to the way you submit to Allah is by submitting to Muhammad. Can you imagine this, by the way? I want to read this. I want to read this again just so people don't. And this is insane right here, right? But no, by your Lord, they can have no faith. You can't really have any Islamic faith until what? Until they make you, Muhammad, judge in all disputes between them,
Muhammad,
and find in themselves no resistance against your decisions. In other words, if Muhammad decides to have sex with a 9-year-old girl, you can't have any resistance against that. If you think, oh, I'm not sure that's right, you're not even a real Muslim. You have to. That's why I said mindlessly. There's no thinking through this. There's no wondering if this makes sense. You unquestioningly obey every decision Muhammad makes. So find in themselves no resistance against your decisions and accept them, what? Muhammad's decisions, with full submission. Islam tells you how you submit to God. You submit to God by mindlessly, unquestioningly obeying anything Muhammad says. And isn't this insane for people who think, oh, this is just pure monotheism? A guy actually walked up in the Arabian desert and said, hey, we all have to submit to God. Okay, O prophet, how do we submit to God? By mindlessly doing everything I tell you. Now give me your daughters. Everyone start giving me your daughters. I gotta have your daughters. Everyone has to. You can only submit to God by submitting to everything I say. By doing everything I say. Everything I say. Hey, my own adopted son has a really hot wife over there. I think I'm gonna have to have that. They're taking this guy seriously. I mean, the entire religion is all based on Muhammad. Isn't this weird? The guy who starts the religion defines it, his pure monotheism. He defines pure monotheism as unquestioningly submitting to everything he says and not questioning it. That's like a telltale sign of a false prophet.
And then they accuse Christians of worshiping a man. Yes, you're obviously worshiping Muhammad. Yep. If you follow everything he says without question. I mean, in Christianity, do we even believe so much so that you cannot question God completely? Like when we even pray, we are like, God, why is this happening to us? But even Muhammad, you don't ask him this kind of question.
Yeah, but think about this. If God says something, we would obey God. Islam is defined as obeying everything that this guy says, even though this guy, according to the religion, is a sinner. Even though this guy, according to the religion, makes all sorts of mistakes and does all sorts of really, really messed up things. He does all sorts of really evil, messed up things. And we're told the only way you can submit to God is by never questioning this guy. So what is this religion? It's the religion of submission to Muhammad, pretending, masquerading as submission to God.
Interesting. Really interesting.
Too. I have Muslim friends. I know that they are very peaceful set of people.
Okay, see, they're peaceful. I know peaceful Muslims. Okay, what if you knew violent Muslims? Would you conclude that the religion is violent then? That's the point. You can't just conclude based on some people you know. Yeah,
exactly. It's not based on who you know.
Oh, I know some Shias. Therefore, Islam is Shia. Yeah. I know Sunnis. Therefore, Islam is what? You got to read this. You got to know what the sources are. If you don't know what's in the sources, you could just pick any Muslim you like and say that's what Islam teaches.
Yeah, they're actually very peaceful set of the people that you see that may be terrorists and all that. They're just extremists. And we also have
the people who obey Surah 9, 111, they slay until they get slain. Those are just the extremists. The extremists are the ones who actually listen to what Allah and Muhammad say. The extremists are the ones who unquestioningly obey what Muhammad decides, as Muslims are commanded in Surah 4, verse 65. Those are the extremists. Well, who are the regular Muslims? The ones who don't pay attention to what the Quran says.
The ones who don't even know the ones who will tell you that there is no verse in the Quran that talks about killing. Those are the true Muslims.
Ones who lie to your face. Those are the real Muslims. The ones who either don't know or they lie to your face. Those are the real Muslims. Well, who are the false Muslims? The ones who know. The ones who know what it says and obey it. They're the bad ones. It's amazing.
Interesting religion. An interesting way of thinking about things.
Have that in other religions. They just they take the religion to the extreme. They start seeing things they're not supposed to see. So Islam is a religion of peace.
Can the disagreeer now speak?
The Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. If Islam is a religion of peace, how come there are some forceful practices? If it is not this way, you die. How come when we get to some Islamic states, a Christian goes to preach, they slaughter in Kaduna, that see happen.
God will bless this man for this one. Like, God will bless him. God will bless you, sir. Exactly. Even in Kaduna today, it is still happening.
And think about this, by the way. Think about this, by the way. There's still the issue that he's still pointing to people. Now he's right, saying, "Hey, why is Islam doing this? Why is Islam like this in this other area?" It still all comes back to the sources. But I have to say, the people, the other Christians who are saying Islam is peaceful, because I know peaceful Muslims, they can't object to this. They can't object to this because they defined Islam by, oh, here are some Muslims and they're living peacefully. Therefore, I conclude something about the religion. Now, what are they going to say here? Oh, no, but not all Muslims are like, wait a minute. You guys said that since I know peaceful Muslims, therefore the religion is this. Okay, what do you do about Muslims who would chop your head off? What about them?
What about them? What about those Muslims who kill Christians that go to preach? What about that?
Woman went to preach and they killed her in cold blood. A lady mentioned something, they say she has blasphemed, and they have to kill her.
I don't know if you are aware, if you know this story. It was when it happened, it was, I don't know if the news got to the West, but in Nigeria it was major news. What happened? So what's her name? I've even forgotten her name. The lady's name is even a popular name, but I've forgotten her name. Anyways, what happened was she's a student. She was a student in University of Kano State University. So they have this WhatsApp group for her class, and the result for their like past semester result just came out, and everybody was sharing the results that they had. And I think she did well in the exam, and then she was asked, what is the reason? What is the secret to you doing well? And then she said, "It's Jesus. Jesus is the secret." And the Muslims in the WhatsApp group were like, she should not say that she should apologize for saying that. And then she said she will not apologize for saying that, and that they should not bring this religious nonsense into this WhatsApp group. That is what she said. I'm not going to apologize for what I said, and you people should not bring this religious nonsense into this WhatsApp group. We are here to just talk about our results in school, and don't force me to do anything or say anything or apologize for anything. Don't make everything, overly religious. Essentially, that's what she was saying. That was deemed blasphemy. The next day she went to school, and her classmate had already contacted people from outside the school. So people from outside the school came in, dragged her, beat her, and set her on fire. The funny thing is that after she was set on fire, this is another thing you need to understand about this great country of Nigeria. After she was set on fire, the person who set her on fire, because it was recorded, they videoed the whole thing, they filmed the whole thing. The person who set her on fire went towards the camera boldly and said, "This is my hand. It is with these hands that I set her on fire. Look at the matches. It is with this match." Do you know this person is not in prison? Nothing has nothing has happened to that person. This person is still working freely in Nigeria. And the lady is dead. And these people, I'm sure every single one of them sitting in this panel talking about this are aware of this story. And despite this story, they're saying Islam is a religion of peace. That is very interesting.
Christianity, God did not give anybody right to take another person's life. Christianity preaches love of God, that irrespective of the kind of your sin, of the bad behavior you have, what you need is salvation, to understand that that thing you are doing is wrong, not to execute you. How come Sharia says you steal something, they cut your hand, they cut your leg, and all of those ones? The instant judgment.
Do you know that people later said in this conversation that Sharia and Islam are not the same? Do you know they said that in this panel?
Well, that's good.
The level of ignorance that I saw in this, I was like, Jesus Christ, Sharia and Islam are not the same? Wow.
Without room for repentance. If it is peace, then you give people room to change when they are in error, when they are in sin, when they are doing wrong. Because Satan that is working in them, the spirit that is doing all those things, it's bad spirit. And human beings cannot just overcome that by themselves, except a higher power help them. we see videos, we see things that are happening in not Christian soldiers and all of that, how they are slaughtering people and they are killing them just because they are Christians. When there is peace.
Just few days ago, just so that people understand what he said. Just few days ago, ISIS West African, there's a name they call them, but the ones that operate in West Africa, ambushed a bus that was traveling around Borno, northeastern part of Nigeria. Borno, I think they were going from I don't know what state, but a state close to Borno. They were moving from there to Borno State, and they were on transit, and the car was ambushed. They told everybody to come out. They told the Christians to go to one side, and they told the Muslims to go to one side. And then they let the Muslims go. They took the Christians, and on camera, they executed the Christians, and they posted it on social media. It just happened not too long ago in this very country. But that is not really Islam, obviously. Of course, that's not what.
No, because it's not what my friend does.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, of course, because I know.
Only my friend does. Only my friend defines Islam. Whatever my friend says, that's what it is.
I know Sheikh Farouk from Ikeja, and he cannot do such a thing. So, obviously.
Can you explain? How do you explain those things to me? Christians that have died just because they are Christians. Mm-hmm. How many places have you seen Christians just carry gun and begin to go and be extreme mosques and begin to kill people? I mean,
it
just
happens.
because
you see this is what I'm laughing is because of the kind of thing on a good day, if it's Nigerians that are just watching this, the kind of things they will say when this person said it happens. The Nigerian will just be like, God will help me and punish you. Like what he's saying, yes, does it happen? Yes, but he's making it look like Christians will just wake up and start killing. No, like, especially in Kaduna. Kaduna is a very dangerous place right now because Christians and Muslims are having clashes constantly. And it is not because the Christians are starting it. It is never because of that. Never. This is the same. This is one thing that when I saw how people were talking about the Israel and Palestine conflict, I was like, this is synonymous to how they talk about the Christian-Muslim conflict in Kaduna. Nobody talks about who starts it. It is never a Christian community starting this thing. Never. Look at what is happening in Jos. When Christians start retaliating, everybody will forget that 1,500 Christians have been killed thus far. Everybody will forget that. Everybody will forget that these people, this community have given the military, given the police, given every government law enforcement agency the opportunity to step in and do something about this for longer than even people in the East will bear. This is since Christmas Eve. The army has not done anything. Police has not done anything. They will always come to the scene of the event after people have been slaughtered and then say, oh, we are investigating this. We'll bring the culprits to book, blah, blah, blah. Then tomorrow we see leaked footages of them with these terrorists doing nothing. It's like they're even having beer together. So this is already happening. People are saying the moment you hear that Christians are retaliating, they're trying to defend themselves. Boom. Christians are doing it too. Look, they are Christian. And then there's this other one they mentioned. Sorry, I'm just ranting, but there's this other one they mentioned where they're like, oh, but look, when they attacked this place, they also burned down mosque. They also Boko Haram also demolishes mosques. That's to show you that it has nothing to do with Islam. You know.
By the way, that's nonsense. Again, Surah 9 verse 73 says that Muhammad was commanded to fight not only unbelievers but also hypocrites. Mm-hmm. So if you believe that you are the representatives of the caliphate or something like that, or you're the true Muslims, and these other Muslims aren't on the same page, and they're not on board, they're hypocrites. You're supposed to fight them too. And we find this even from the first of the rightly guided caliphs, I mentioned that there were the apostate wars. They fought wars against the apostates. What's interesting is apostate for them didn't simply mean someone who renounced Islam. Some of the people that they classified as apostates simply said, "Hey, we're gonna do our zakat in our own way. We're gonna do our alms in our own way. We don't necessarily believe in giving them to Abu Bakr and he decides what to do with it. I could go give to charity on my own." Abu Bakr says, "If you don't give me a piece of rope that used to give Muhammad, I'm coming to kill you." And so he's putting all of them in the apostate category or the hypocrite category. And so keep in mind, these were people, some of the people that are in the apostate category, They still believe in Muhammad. They still believe in Allah. They still believe in Muhammad. They still believe in the prayers. They still believe in taking the pilgrimage. They believe in all these things. They just said, we can do our zakat the way we want and not the way you say, namely giving our money to you. We can do our zakat on our own. That was enough to say, you're dead. You're under a death sentence.
Yeah,
so
no,
this is the first of the rightly guided caliph saying, I'll kill all these guys who are saying they're Muslims if they're not doing something right. But then when ISIS or Boko Haram or something like this blows up the mosque of a group that they say is not following Islam properly, you see, not Muslims, nothing to do with Islam. Wrong. Okay, great. Then Abu Bakr has nothing to do with Islam.
True. Let's like young people will say, let's let this man cook.
Like Christian,
It
you are
happens.
They believe that, we serve God, the gentility, everything, but it's now getting to a point where the way they are slaughtering them, if you don't defend yourself, you will just be dying like chicken. That is what it is, a way of defense, and that is not wrong. God did not say we should not defend ourselves. True. You are killing me, killing us. We are just looking. God himself is called the man of war. So when it comes to issue of killing in an unjust way, you can defend yourself. That doesn't mean that it is we initiating it. We have seen hate and, a kind of violence so much in Islam. That is the reason why I say, you are saying this, what you are saying is contradictory. If truly it's a religion of peace, how come I'm seeing the opposite?
And this just reminds, my dad, although I'm sure he has not read the Quran or knows anything about the Quran, but when we were growing up, he's somebody who traveled around Nigeria, traveled to so many states in the country. And what he said about Islam is, he said those people worship a blood-sucking demon. That was the best way he could describe it. Those people worship a blood-sucking demon. That's all he could say. He said, when it comes to Islam, those people worship a blood-sucking demon because the ease with which they kill people, that he has not seen anything like that in his life. The ease with which they just, he's dead. And I have a relative that served in the north, so he served in Kaduna. He said that when they are doing this killing, that you even have grandmothers, 90, 80-year-old, cheering them on, like, yay! Like you see a grandmother, he's like, yeah, go ahead, kill this person. And you be like, Jesus, even somebody that is old, that should be like, I'm not in support of this, like, yeah, go ahead. That those people don't find it. In Nigeria, they'll say somebody has their heart at their back, which is like the person is heartless. It's the way of saying these people are heartless. That is when it comes to how this is what they call extremists, how they operate in the north is like, and I think even the northern community of Muslims, they are all like that. If they're not engaging in it, they are cheering on those who are doing it. They are cheering them on, including grandmothers.
And
I think
that's all connected to what we were talking about earlier with Islam teaching that Allah doesn't love you until you first love Muhammad and obey Muhammad. Whereas in Christianity, we're told love our enemies. Why? Because God loves them. And once you absorb the Islamic idea that these people you're killing, God doesn't love them. Why should you care about them? God himself hates and despises them for rejecting Muhammad. And so what's the result? Surah 98 verse 6. Jews and Christians are the worst of creatures. We're the worst of creatures. We're garbage. We're lower than dogs. We're lower than cattle. We're lower than pigs. Muslims, Surah 3 verse 110, Muslims are the best of peoples ever raised up for mankind. So in Christianity, we may have a relationship with Jesus, but we're all, every person you ever see, we're all created in the image of God. And because of that, we all are deserving of a certain level of respect because of what we are. We're the image of God. In Islam, we're the worst of creatures. We're garbage. The unbelievers are garbage. And so the implications of that is, why should anyone feel bad that this Christian is over here getting his head chopped off or being burned alive? Allah has no love for that person. Why should you? So keep in mind, in Christianity, God loves that person, so you should too. In Islam, God has no love for that person. Why should you? And yep, we see the results.
It's just as a result of misinformation. So I have not probably as a
I want this lady
I
to
think
say.
the disagreement is just as a result of misinformation. So I
That's
have
true.
not probably
That is true.
experienced
She's
what
right
he-
about that.
Yeah, she's right. But here's
There's
the
some
problem. Is that
misinformation. There's some misinformation here. Yep.
who are the misinformed? Who does
Yeah,
she think is
her.
misinformed?
Yeah.
Trust me, she does not
There's
think
one.
she's misinformed.
There's one guy there's one guy there who spoke the truth. There's one guy who was right.
result of misinformation. So I have not probably experienced what he has experienced. Maybe he has seen the other side as, as troublesome, but I have not.
Yeah, I have lived all my life in Lagos, and I think that is how the world is defined by what goes on in Lagos.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Therefore, it doesn't happen. If I haven't seen it, then it doesn't exist. Yeah. Great bit of reasoning there. Yeah, good.
Only say with what I know.
Why I had that perception was the physical experiences and what we see on news and what we have seen in Nigeria here and in other countries. I see hate, I see all of those things in the way they relate with us. If it is peaceful, when I come to your country or a state that is declared Islamic state, you should still allow me practice my religion. When you don't allow me to live my life and make my choice, there's no peace in that. You have already declared war.
Some people, they went to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and they asked him, sir, please tell us the biggest sin in sight of God. Prophet Muhammad mentioned 3 things. 1, Ashiriku Billah, that is associating
partners with Allah.
Associating other gods with Allah. Wa qatlu nafs, killing, as he has been saying.
Is this true?
We already saw the Quran. We saw Surah 9, verse 111 defines a Muslim as someone who kills until he gets killed.
The third one, sorry, let me stop interrupting this with you so we can finish it.
Refuse to follow the footsteps of your parents. That's the theory that Prophet Muhammad told them. That is the great sin inside of God. Islam does not tell us to kill in any way. Or if you see people...
If you ignore the Quran and the Hadith.
I mean, if you
ignore the Quran, the Hadith, the Sirah, the Tafsir, the entire history of Muhammad and his followers for 14 centuries, and you live in a fantasy land, then Islam doesn't tell you to kill anywhere. That's true.
If he had said, because, when you see Muslims online, the ones online will say, okay, in the case of self-defense or when they are attacking you are like, those verses we are talking about Muslims when they were being attacked. If he had said that, I'll be like, okay. But this one that he said in any way, under any circumstance, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Even some Muslims that I know that are good liars don't go this far.
Yeah, this is bad.
This is where they are killing. They are not Muslims. They are not Muslims. I'm telling you today, they can cover themselves doing like they are not. Cool. Islam does not teach them that.
Muhammad killed all kinds of people, so he's not a Muslim.
He's not a Muslim. He's not.
Muhammad, all 4 of the rightly guided caliphs and 14 centuries of Muslim leaders were not Muslims, according to this guy. Who are the real Muslims? Him and some...
Him and his Yoruba friends.
Him and some other Muslims... Him and some other Muslims who live in Western Nigeria and in the West. Those are the true Muslims, and everyone else is fake.
Or every Muslim in Lagos. That's the... Let me tell you something about Lagos Muslims. They are the most unserious people I've ever seen in my... And sorry, if the Lagos Muslims feel offended, you know what I'm saying is true. You know what I'm saying is true. Lagos Muslims, they will this... He said that one of the greatest sins is associating partners with Allah. But you see Lagos Muslims who are herbalists, who are native doctors, or who go to native doctors, who go to herbalists, who go to native doctors are like I don't know how to describe it. People who practice witchcraft or who practice traditional whatever it is, just native doctors. They go to those people. Or I've even seen Yoruba Muslims who go to pastors for prayers. Yes. It happens a lot in Lagos. My dad, as a pastor, had so many Muslims come to him for prayers when they need help, when they need something, when they are sick, when they are whatever. When they are in a desperate situation, everything they hold about Allah just goes out the window. They will call you to pray for them, to talk to them, to encourage them, whatever. And some of them, some Lagos Muslims are political Muslims. Like the president of Nigeria was the former governor of Lagos. He's a political Muslim. That's why all his children, none of them are Muslims. He's a Muslim for political reasons because he wants to get the vote of the North. That is what it is all about. That is Lagos Muslims for you. So even them don't take the religion seriously. They don't even care so much for it. It's just, and that is why people in the North don't see them as, they hate them. They attack them. They kill some of them. Like when places in Western Nigeria that shares border with the North, like you're talking about Kwara State, even some parts of Ondo, right? Ondo State. I think it was in Ondo State where a traditional leader was kidnapped, and they are even getting attacks from those areas. They kill them because they don't even see them as true Muslims. And that's of course, it's based on those people that we are going to define the religion. People that are already committing shirk, they do it without thinking.
By the way, since you make videos, some easy videos to make would be to take this clip of him saying that if you kill in any way, you're not a real Muslim. And just every time there's a killing in Nigeria, you post the story and then post this guy and say, but he says they're not real Muslims, so.
So there you go.
He is declared, you're not real Muslims. You heard it here. You're not real Muslims. You're not real Muslims. This guy says you're not real Muslims. So take that.
In Muslim,
in Islam,
we have bad people. Also in Christian, there's bad people. You must pay possibility say aussi. So
thank God you are translating so you can understand what he's saying.
They are killing Muslims too. They bomb mosque.
That's his defense. They also bomb mosques too. So
as the Quran commands, yes, they do.
We cannot say it's Christian that is doing that. So that one, they are terrorists. They are not Muslim. They are not Christian. It's not acceptable in Islam at all. How can you kill somebody that God created? Are you the one that created? Why are you killing them?
Well, if you deny that those people are not Muslims, well, you said it, but one thing I know is that when they want to do those things, they will chant the Islamic, words.
Thank you. God bless this man. They will shout Allahu Akbar. That's what they shout. That is what they shout.
So it's interesting. It's interesting because he's not like quoting the Muslim sources, so we have no idea if he knows what's in the Muslim sources. He's just looking around at he's looking around at reality. Yeah, he's looking around at reality.
Like, based on what I'm saying, you can't convince me.
Yeah, you can expand this. He's just talking about like what he observes in Nigeria. Wait a minute, you're saying these guys don't really believe this stuff? Why are they reciting Islamic phrases and so on as they're doing this killing if they don't really believe? But you can actually expand this if you want to say, because this is what the rest of the panel wants to say, is these are just people who are misunderstanding Islam. They just haven't understood it. They've misunderstood it. Why is it that people around the entire world misunderstand Islam in exactly the same way? In other words, when ISIS steps up and says, we're the new caliphate, you had people coming from the UK to join them. You had people coming from France. You had people coming from Asia. You had people coming from the United States and Canada. You had Muslims all around who had the exact same ideas about Islam that ISIS had. How did everyone misunderstand Islam in exactly the same way? How did that happen? Because you can have a Christian group. The other guy was right. You can have a Christian who says, hey, I'm going to jump up and I'm going to go kill a bunch of people. Are you going to have the rest? You're going to have Christians from all over the world rallying around him and saying, yes, finally we got him. And we all come and they all had the same idea. No, you're not. It's going to be a weird local thing that someone comes up with. You're not going to have everyone else coming up with these ideas because that's not what our sources say. The reason wherever you have Islam, you have a portion of the people who think that their job is to subjugate the world, is that's what the sources say. And so you have people who are actually paying attention to what the sources say, and they interpret Islam in the same way. And so, guys making good points here.
That one is an Arabic word. Is that a big word?
They will chant it and they will slaughter the people.
It's a language.
But that's what
don't combine it with Quran. Quran is separate. Arabic is separate.
Well,
this guy is so disingenuous. So as in the lies that came out of, what the Arabic word is referring to is. You know what it is. And yet you're like, it's just Arabic word. Don't.
Allah use Arabic language to write Quran. So don't say it's, they may say another thing.
Though they were telling me that the areas of killing and all of that, those people that are doing that, they are not Muslims. But those Islamic nations that are declared clearly that this is Islamic nation, why are they still segregating? If you marry a Muslim in such country, you lose your rights as a Christian. Malaysia, for example, that's what is practiced there.
When I started my conversation the other time, I said there is difference between your religion and tolerance.
What does that
You
mean?
can say blaspheming, all those stuff. I already said it. We know that there's difference between what you're saying and Sharia law. Okay, Nigeria, we have constitution. You do what is against that constitution, and you were taken to the court. They sentence that person to. So that person did not know that when you do this, this is the. Don't you know?
This woman just tried to defend somebody who was burnt alive by saying it is the law. That don't you know that you were breaking the law when you said what you said? That's just what she's just trying to do. In case people don't understand what she's just trying, that's exactly what she's just trying to do.
That these things, thieves, all those, when they have law, this might caution them that, if they catch me, is this. If it's law, that one is separate. Don't steal. I heard that where those Sharia law work, that they can leave their goods and go and pray.
This is let me tell you something, David. Let me tell you something about Nigeria. We have corrupt politicians in this country. Like very, very, as in when we say corrupt, leave anything you understand about how Americans are corrupt. There is levels to corruption. And Nigerian politicians are deep. I mean, stealing. I mean, taking bribe. Northern leaders, Muslim leaders are very, very corrupt. But Sharia law does not touch them because it turns out that Sharia, once you're a politician, it doesn't apply. It doesn't apply to you. It applies to people who are under you. Sharia law does not apply. And this lady is going to tell us that, look, if you go to an Islamic state in Nigeria, people leave their goods outside and nobody is stealing them. Yes, except the politicians, but I mean, Sharia is working very well. It's deterring people from stealing, except people who are not supposed to steal. The ones who they are stealing matters the most. Sharia law is ineffective in preventing them from stealing.
Well, you remember what Muhammad said. You have to obey your leader, even if he's an Ethiopian whose head looks like a raisin. So you got to obey. You just got to obey, even if they're doing horrible things.
Alhamdulillah.
They can leave their money outside and go and pray. That is the law. Nobody can question. That is the law. Just leave that. And concerning the killing, you can't say, okay, because Muslims don't like Christians. That's why they are killing. It's a lie. One Christian, they went to preach. That's when they killed. It's a lie. Maybe sometimes we do something bad in disguise. Maybe one or two things happen. And she said something. She said some people are taking religion more. In fact, sometimes like you feel like, did these people read Quran from the back or from the top? Why are they thinking like this? So that does not mean all Islam is not peace. Islam is a religion of peace. So a Muslim lady or a Muslim guy doing bad thing is that person's behavior.
She just said a whole lot of nothing. I don't even understand the point she said. She's just going all over the place. She just said a whole lot of nothing. Like, this one, but this person, this. I don't know if you understand, if you get anything from what she has been saying to us, because I feel she just said a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, makes perfect sense if we didn't know what's actually in the Muslim sources, but we do know what's in the Muslim sources, and
it's not true.
She's saying it's just behavior. It's not coming from reading the Quran, bull, just complete total nonsense.
And then there's this talk about is just law. It's just law. That one is different. It's just law. Like, what do you mean it's just law? And then she's like, and the killing, it's not really because of that. There may be something that happened. I don't even understand what she's trying to paint with it. There may be something like what are you saying? The Christian preacher that was killed was maybe there was a disagreement that has nothing. This is a preacher that left her community, went to a different community where she probably does not know anybody, and then somebody there killed her. You're like, yeah, maybe there was something. What are you trying to say? It's fine. It's fine. These people have this is another thing that is really fascinating about some people in Lagos. And I know Lagos people will feel attacked after watching this video. And yes, I am attacking you people because there was somebody who said that the people in Lagos feel they are super arrogant, and they are. They feel they know too much, and they do. They feel they understand how the world works, and yes, that's how they behave. And this lady has just exemplified that perfectly. We know what is going on. We know how the world works. You cannot tell us anything. We are living in one of the largest cities in Africa. There's nothing you can tell us. Okay? So that is the arrogant confidence of the average Lagos Muslim.
Not is religion.
Correct.
The one that happened in the north that they kill one lady like that. I heard about it and I feel like, hey, yeah. And what did this girl do? Okay, fine, blasphemy. Oh, in this life, you need to leave some things. Me, if I'm arguing with Christian, maybe we are talking, and the thing is going to exchange. The person is taking it personal. I'll calm down. Because I know that you might be aggressive. You can take it to another level that I don't even understand.
In Yoruba land.
So wait, what does that prove? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Like she's saying, if I'm having a disagreement with somebody, I will need to calm down because I don't know where it might go. Okay, in light of Christian-Muslim conversations that have resulted in a Christian being killed by a Muslim, what does that prove? I don't know if you understand. For me, it means it proves that there is this violent tendency amongst Muslims where if they have a disagreement with a Christian, because many of these disagreements, this is one of the things that happen with especially the blasphemy accusation. A Christian and a Muslim are having a dispute in the north, and the Christian may not even say anything that is remotely resembling blasphemy. And the Muslim person will just say, hey, he just blasphemed. And of course, the crowd will not ask any question, and then they just gang up, start throwing stones or trying to kill the person. Sometimes the police will intervene, sometimes they will not, and then the person is dead. That is what happens.
Yeah,
Why
that
is
happens
that?
in Pakistan.
And it happens in northern Nigeria too. So why is that?
And Muslim and Christian live, we live harmonious. We have no issue. You can't try that in the north. They don't even believe that Muslims in the south here are Muslims. They believe that they are compromiser because they live peacefully with Christians. Those core area, you dare not try it. And that is still what is the truth today. Except they are denying it.
I can't say that they don't embrace peace. And at the same time, I still believe what Pastor Rock said, because a people who do not believe in Jesus, a people who do not believe in carrying the Holy Spirit, then there is a possibility that they can be walking in ignorance. You are bound to do things you should not do. So therefore, I can actually deviate in my statement that they are a people of peace. I still believe that there is this part of war in them.
And that is the end of the conversation there. That is the end of the conversation there. Interesting. So that is when it comes to trying to awaken people to what's going on, what the ideology, the religion that is Islam. This is what you are dealing with in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen,
that's very similar. That's very similar in the rest of the world as well.
So true. That's what we are dealing with. People who believe that Islam is defined by their Muslim friends, and yeah. So yeah, there's one more thing that I want to ask you before we call it. I think this is how we'll close. I don't know. We are planning to use 2 hours to talk about it, but we need to maybe like 30 minutes and then we'll be over. Is to give us
I have to be off by 5 minutes till 6 my time. I have to watch my wife has a meeting, so I have to.
So how many minutes from now?
About 13 or 14, something like that.
Oh, maybe we'll bring you. I don't know if we'll have you some other time, but I was to give us the breakdown of the stages of jihad, but I don't know if you have much time. If you can give us something like
I can do it quickly.
Okay,
I can do a quick version. Yeah, this to help everyone, and this to help everyone understand what the actual situation is, because no one in that discussion is really quoting the Muslim sources to defend what they're saying. But if they were, that could also be confusing, because you have some passages of the Quran that sound peaceful, and you have others that sound like they're calling for violence. And so if you were reading this and you didn't know how it all fits together, you might be wondering, hey, what's going on here? But there's a way that all of this fits together. So this will be a crash course. I'll read a couple of passages. So we've already discussed that Islam means submission. We read a couple of verses. We read Surah 33, verse 36, and Surah 4, verse 65, which talk about unquestioningly obeying Allah and Muhammad. So you have to unquestioningly obey Allah and Muhammad. You're not inventing your own thing. In coming up with your own way of doing things that isn't complete submission to Allah and Muhammad, that's called innovation. You're going to hell for that. If you're, in other words, what that guy was doing, now if he's just practicing deception, that's one thing. But if he's actually saying, no, if you actually fight or kill for any reason, you're not a real Muslim, that's innovation, according to Islam. That's the sin of bid'ah, right? So that guy's in trouble. Islam means submission. And you wonder, okay, how exactly do I submit? Well, we've got the commands to obey Allah and Muhammad. And the Quran claims over and over again to be perfectly clear in its commands. Surah 11, verse 1, this is a book whose verses have been made firm and free from imperfection and expounded in detail. 12:1, these are verses of the clear book. 15:1, these are verses of the book and of a Quran that makes things clear. This goes on and on and on. 24:46, certainly we have revealed clear communications. 26:2, these are the verses of a book that makes things clear. 27:1, these are verses of a Quran, a book that makes things clear. Over and over again, Allah brags about how clear his revelations are. And yet, again, you get to some areas where one part of the Quran is telling you to do one thing, and another part of the Quran is telling you something completely different. And so people wonder, if it's clear, why is it telling me to do different things? This was brought up during the time of Muhammad. How come one day your leader, Muhammad, tells you one thing, and a different time he tells you something different? This is why Allah reveals Surah 2, verse 106 of the Quran. Surah 2, verse 106, I'll read it. Whatever communications we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, we bring one better than it or like it. Do you not know that Allah has power over all things? So when you have two different verses telling you to do two different things in Allah's perfectly clear Quran, there's a methodology for getting to what you're supposed to do. You look up the historical background, which one came later. Whichever one came later, that's the one that you're supposed to obey. So point is, when you read the Quran, what that woman said, when you read the Quran from beginning to end, if you actually read it, you don't get what she thinks you get, though, right? You find that jihad proceeds in stages. And this is true wherever you go. You can go to the Quran, and as long as you understand the order of these verses, you see this here. You see this in the Hadith. You see this in the Sirah. These are the biographies. You see this in the life of Muhammad, where when the overall pattern is, when Muhammad and his followers were only a tiny minority of the population, as they were in Mecca, when they couldn't have hoped to win a physical confrontation with the unbelievers, they were commanded to preach a message of peace and tolerance. So if you're a small minority and you can't win a physical confrontation, you proclaim Islam is peace and tolerance. Islam is all about peace. Islam is all about tolerance. Islam is all about getting along with everyone else. That's what it teaches. Now, unfortunately, Islam didn't end there. Later on, Muhammad and his followers left Mecca. They moved to Medina. He had more followers by this time. He was able to form alliances. And then we enter what we would call stage 2. Jihad proceeds in stages. Stage 1, you're a tiny minority, don't fight, peace and tolerance. Stage 2, once you have the ability to fight, but you're not strong enough to actually win an all-out war, then what you do is you fight defensively. If someone's attacking you, oppressing you, even criticizing Muhammad, then you can fight back defensively. But you're not going out and just trying to subjugate the world. You're reacting to other people as a kind of warning. Don't mess with the Muslim community. And if the message of the Quran had ended there, then you would have got fighting in self-defense. But that wasn't the end. You still got stage 3, because later on, when Muslims are the most powerful force in Arabia, when they're the strongest group, then the message changed once again to passages like fight those who do not believe in Allah. There it changes from fight people who do something to you first to fighting people just based on what they believe. Fighting people just based on what they believe. So here, once you get to stage 3, then unbelievers have to be subjugated or killed just for being unbelievers. So to kind of wrap up this entire situation, you read the Quran and it's out of order, it's jumbled together and so on. The last major surah of the Quran is Surah 9. The last major surah revealed is Surah 9. So this would abrogate earlier revelations. And the most relevant passage for what's going on in Nigeria is Surah 9, verse 29, right? So 9:29, fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. You have to keep fighting. You have to keep fighting them until they feel themselves subdued. So if you're in northern Nigeria and you say, hey, I'm a Muslim, we're in control of this area, every other group has to be subjugated to you and be paying you tribute money. If not, then there's something, you're not being obedient to Allah. But I just want to read the context of this verse, because even the Christians and the Muslims, except for the one guy who had some common sense, the Christians and Muslims on that panel would all believe we must be taking this out of context because Islam doesn't actually advocate fighting. So they think this must be about self-defense. I'll go ahead and read the entire passage. It's Surah 9, verse 28 to Surah 9, verse 33. That's the entire passage. And you find for me, try and find one word about self-defense here. Try and find one word about people are attacking you here. The historical background here is Muhammad, he conquered Mecca, and back then the pagans used to take the pilgrimage to Mecca. That was a pagan religious site, the Kaaba. And Muhammad says, okay, now the pagans can't take this religious pilgrimage anymore. And his tribe was worried, wait a minute, this is gonna cut us off from the pagans, and we have trade agreements with them. We make money from them. How are we going to make money now if you basically spit in all their faces and say they can't take their religious pilgrimage anymore? This is what this passage is responding to. So Surah 9, verse 28, we'll read the entire passage. O you who believe, truly the pagans are unclean, so let them not, after this year of theirs, approach the sacred mosque. They can't take the pilgrimage anymore. And if you fear poverty, because you're hurting your business relationships, if you fear poverty, soon will Allah enrich you, if he wills, out of his bounty, for Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. So, hey, you're worried about losing money. Don't worry, Allah's going to enrich you. Well, how is Allah going to enrich you? Very next verse, Surah 9, verse 29. Fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden, which hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from among the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Wait a minute, we're losing money. How are we going to make the money back? Don't worry, Allah's going to enrich you. How? We're going to fight the Jews and Christians until they pay us tribute money. That's how we're going to make up that money. Now look at every criterion for fighting Jews and Christians here. There's not one word about them attacking you. It's fight those who do not believe. Fight those who do not forbid the same things that Allah and his messenger have forbidden. So if your religion says you can do this, and Islam says you can't do that, then you have to actually fight them. And it says you fight them until they pay the jizya. And the obvious question that would have arisen is, wait a minute, they're the people of the book. I thought we were supposed to be on their side on some of these issues. Next verse, Surah 9, verse 30. And the Jews say, notice not killing people, the Jews say, Ezra is the son of Allah. No, they don't, by the way. And the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. These are the words of their mouths. They imitate the saying of those who disbelieved before. I'm emphasizing that this is about what we say, what we preach. They imitate the saying of those who disbelieved before. Allah's curse be upon them, how they are turned away. Next verse. They took their rabbis and their monks to be their lords besides Allah and Christ the son of Mary. Yet they were commanded to worship but one God. There is no God but he. Praise and glory to him. Far is he from having the partners they associate with him. Notice again, it's not saying we're attacking Muslims. It's saying we're taking rabbis and monks as lords. Next verse. They desire to put out the light of Allah with their mouths. Again, this is about what we preach. The justification is what we preach. They desire to put out the light of Allah with their mouths, But Allah will not allow but that his light should be perfected, even though the unbelievers may detest it. Allah is not going to allow us to put out his light with our mouths, with our speech. Well, how is he going to stop us from what we say? Next verse, it is he who hath sent his messenger, Muhammad, with guidance and the religion of truth to prevail it over all religion, even though the idolaters may detest it. So Allah is going to stop us from what we say. How is he going to stop us? By sending Muhammad to subjugate us until we are subdued and we are paying tribute money. And as part of that agreement, we are not going to preach what we preach. There is not one word in the entire passage about self-defense, about people attacking you. It's all these guys are actually unbelievers and we have to violently subjugate them until they pay us money. That's what Islam actually teaches. So the idea that this is just about peace and tolerance and maybe only self-defense, there's nothing about self-defense in this passage. It's fighting unbelievers specifically for being unbelievers. And this lines up perfectly with what Muhammad said in the hadith when he said, I've been commanded to fight people until they say there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. It's fighting people based on their beliefs. The only exception to what Muhammad said in the hadith are Jews and Christians, who can continue being Jews and Christians as long as we keep the money flowing to the Muslim community. But however you want to read this, however anyone wants to read this, this is not peace and tolerance here. This is violently subjugating unbelievers in the name of Allah. And I'll just say, you can look at any country in the world right now. You can look at any country in the world. Look at these stages of jihad. When you're too small and weak to fight, peace and tolerance. When you're stronger, when you get stronger, then you can fight defensively. When you're the most powerful force and you can actually just take over an area, then you do that. You can look at any country in the world. It's all following. They're all following this pattern. What do we hear about Islam in the United States, where Muslims are a tiny minority of the population? It's all peace and tolerance. What do you find in other areas? Well, if Muslims make up 20 or 30% of the population, you're not going to criticize Islam. There will be a defensive jihad response against you for criticizing Muhammad. If you have a country that's dominated by Islam, Pakistan, Egypt, and so on, Christians have to be second-class citizens. But even within countries, within certain areas of countries like northern Nigeria, they will focus on subjugating the Christian population and making sure that they understand their inferior status. So that's the problem with what the people in that panel discussion were saying. They're all everything is just observation. Well, here's what I observe in my area. Here's what I observe from my friend. We look at the Muslim sources. And this is a pattern. This is a recipe. This is a playbook for subjugating the entire world. That's what it is. And it doesn't mean every Muslim is supposed to fight in every situation. If you're a Muslim and you're a tiny minority of the population, you're not supposed to fight. You're supposed to be pretending that Islam is peaceful. But you can't say this doesn't come from the Muslim sources, or that Muslims who attack and subjugate unbelievers are non-Muslims or they're extremists when they're doing exactly what the religion requires.
Yeah. Thank you. That is concise and very easy to understand. Thank you so much. Thank you. I don't know if it's time for you to leave. If your 15 minutes mark is over, let's see if we can look at. It's over.
Yeah, I have to. I mean, I could maybe like 1 minute or something like that. But yeah, my wife has to be gone by 6. So that's
all right. Thank you. Maybe we'll have gone through some super chats, but I'll have to go through that alone. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have you come again. Who knows? To expand on what you just explained in less than 15 minutes.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Hi, brother. Catch you all next time. And everyone be sure to if anyone's coming over here because I linked to it, be sure to subscribe to Frank's channel and become a member. It's a good idea.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye.
Thanks. Catch y'all later.
And you guys are stuck with me and reading super chats. All right, let's get through all of this. Thank you. This has been wonderful. I tried for the most part to hide the fact that I'm starstruck. And let's get through some of this. This is from SmackDown, and he said, "I don't believe in me." Okay, we've read this. 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 Okay, let's start with this. This is from K Slum. He said, "For the collection plate, thank you, Frank. Thank you so much." From West Gears, he says, "Sorry, I joined late. I'm so happy to see you both together, my favorite Christian YouTubers." Yeah. It's been wow. It's been wonderful. Yes, it's been so wonderful. And this is from Sema. Sorry, I can't pronounce the name. He said, how common are Fulani Christians? Met any yourself? Yeah, I've not seen, but I've heard of one Fulani Christian. But I think there are a couple, but they're not. Most of Fulanis are Muslims. Most of the Fulanis in Nigeria are Muslims. This is from Peter Grubler. Alhamdulillah, keep doing the Lord's work. Yes, we will. We will continue to do that. Continue to create awareness and also explain what is going on with Islam and what we see in the world. That's what we are here for. Call of Ghidorah said the crossover we've been waiting for. By the way, David, in your opinion, and he's not here, what do you think of the notion that Jesus on the cross is idol worship? He's not here. Jesus on the cross being idol worship. Is it like the image of him on the cross, or people bowing down to the image? Or I really don't understand the detail of that question. Are you saying the image of Jesus on the cross, is that idol worship, having the image, or him being on the cross, or people bowing down to the image? And I think I will want Catholics to explain that themselves than to do it for them. Anyways, this is from Joshua Wooden, because they are the ones who, if you understand what I mean. This is from Joshua Wooden. It said, Frank and David, you two are very big Islamophobes. In other words, you two notice real life, and as the body of Christ, very good polemicist. Well done, good collab. Thank you. And here's another one from Joshua Wooden. He said, I too am 28 like Frank, and we must honor our elders like Noah's father Lamech. David Wood is also 77 years old. David Wood, Yeshua Agba. Okay, this is from Nera Buffy. Raising the dead is going to be so meta. It's gonna be so meta. We are going to be a bunch of vampires, and these guys, we have their eye straps loosened. They won't be able to perform the ablutions fast enough. I don't know what that is about, but okay. This is from Joshua again. He said, I am rather new to Frank's channel. Your guess is like a sociopathic Socrates. It's sociopathic Socrates. What are your interests, Frank, other than polemists and apologists? Kind of commenting on social stuff. Most of the things I do on my channel is report on the news. Mostly as it has to do with what is going on. Just report on the news. I do a lot of just mocking things that the media does, and also mocking things that people do. That's kind of what I do. And also mocking ridiculous ideas. That's kind of what I do for the most part. It was much later last year that I decided, okay, I'm going to mock one of the most popular religion in the world with over 2 billion worshippers, so that's kind of like how I started talking about Islam. But for the most part of my channel, I wasn't. This is from Cyrilla Rosencrux. Salutations, brother. I have followed Dr. Wood here, and I am glad to give what I can of the bounty the Lord has provided for me to support worthy ministries. Be blessed and continue your good work. Thank you so much. And this is from Holy. He said, there is no God like I don't know how you pronounce Allah when the 2 L are 11. And Muhammad, police be upon him, and Muhammad, police be upon him, is his dog. That's very Islamophobic of you. Jesse, I cannot believe these pastors can say these things with such conviction. Oh, you need to come to Nigeria. You see pastors say, sorry, it's like I'm putting my country on blast, but let me be honest with you. In Nigeria, you will see pastors that will say completely ridiculous stuff with so much conviction and so much confidence. You see it a lot here. A lot ignorant but confident. You see it a lot here. This commenter said, sweet, I learned some new things about Nigeria today. Yeah, that's one of the things you learn when you watch my channel. You learn a lot about Nigeria, which is one of the things I like to talk about beyond just criticizing Islam. It's talking about Nigeria. God bless you, my brother. God bless you too. And Holy said, if a Saudi Arabian pilot prays to Allah before bombing people in Yemen, and those same Yemenis pray to the same Allah, who will win? Well, the person who gets bombed, or the person who fails, whoever, is a confusing way of deciding who will win. Well, we will see. We will see who wins at the end of the day. Will it be the pilot who wants to bomb Yemenis, or will it be the Yemeni people who want to, take down the pilot? Allah knows best. This is from Dafton Academy. Deborah, I don't know why you made that comment and just said Deborah. This is from Holy. Here is an extra $5. I am going to Christian Prince. Thank you so much. Thank you for the 20 gifted membership. And this is from White Lily, Apostate of Islam. I'm really, really enjoying this stream. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. And this is another 20 membership gifts. Thank you. Wow. Nigerian AP might be better than the talks because of how racist I am. What you need to know about Nigerians is that we don't care about categorizing people of other tribes or other region or anything. Like saying something bad about people from a particular region, we don't see it as racist. Like you can see a Nigerian come and just condemn the entire population of Kaduna, for example, and nobody's going to see it as racist. They're not going to be like, no, the last thing he will be accused of is even being tribalist. They'll just be like, well, he's saying his piece. And so the things he says about a group of people, you are being racist, is something that you see in the West. It's not something you see in Nigeria. Anyway, and this is from Jax. He said, thank you everyone for being part of this live stream. Everyone being civil is such a treat in a stream. Thank you, Frank and David. Hopefully another stream together. Hopefully. And this comment said, powerful stuff. That's typical David Wood lingo. And this is from Ashdale Redman. She said, or he said, or they said, like, sub, share, and give Frank money. You don't need. Of course, that's what we do here. Collect your money when you don't need them. Thank you so much, guys. I'm trying to wrap up. That's why I'm like going through these comments swiftly. It's been wonderful hanging out with you guys. This has been one of the live streams that I've had in recent times that I really, 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 really enjoyed. I really enjoyed listening to David Wood and just seeing him dropping wisdom about Islam, about Sharia, about helping us explain what we see around us, and explaining why the ideology behind it and why the people who do it are doing it. And hopefully we'll get to do another live stream with him again. We'll see how it goes. But until then, you guys will be stuck with me for a very long time. You'll be stuck with me for quite a while. But let it not be too long, hopefully, if I get another guest on. And this is a commenter saying Nigeria is a Muslim country. No, it's not. I know some people are dreaming of that day, but no, it's not. And thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate everyone. I want to give a special thank you to a lot of people. I want to thank Jazz. She was the one who made David Wood aware of the fact that I sent him an email, and then he checked his email and got back to me. I want to thank Shayna, as in she has been doing so much behind the scenes to make this possible. Shayna, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I also appreciate you, Jazz. You guys are awesome. You guys are fantastic. This would not be possible without you guys. And also to everyone who came here, who showed support, who sent their super chats and super stickers. I really appreciate every one of you. This has been wonderful for me personally. I really enjoyed myself, and I believe you guys have too. And yeah, thank you also to everyone from all around the world, from India, from the United States, from the UK, and also my Nigerian brothers who are here as well, giving me that Nigerian support. I see you in the chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And there's this lady. I don't know. I saw your comments a couple of times. Although if we had time to pause, I would have highlighted your comments. It's just that I saw them. I want you to know I saw them. Your name is Ola or Ola. I don't know. I think it's Ola. Anyways, OLA. That's the spelling of your name. And I saw I saw your comments, and your input in the comments are really, really appreciated. Thank you, everyone. And on to the next live stream. Only God knows when that will be. I will announce it, obviously. Until then, peace and God bless you.